That's right. They not like us. The show of the 803, live and proud from 1301 Gervais Street. Tyler Head, Captain David Dare, Bill Gunner. Hope you're having a safe Friday. A safe Friday. I think that's about the best way I can describe it as we go into Ice-Mageddon 2026.
I've not been to a grocery store in a couple days. Or are we cleaned out? Is there no milk or bread left? Like, what's the deal?
All right, I'm a single guy. I'm perfectly single, like completely single. Like right now, I got a 16-year-old and a 13-year-old son and daughter. Y'all know that. I've talked about it. But other than that, I'm completely single. Like, this stuff doesn't bother me. And I say that because, like, I'm buying for one, right? I have no pets, no goldfish, no dogs, cats, ferrets. I've been watching videos on Instagram of prairie dogs.
Okay.
Thank goodness I don't drink anymore like I did, because otherwise at 1 a.m. I'd be like, I should buy a prairie dog. I'm not worried about the store, but I would like to go buy normal stuff that a human would like to have on the weekend.
Sure. Of course.
And I'm terrified that if I go this afternoon, like, all y'all who think that we're going to be hunkered down for like 3 weeks and you need all the toilet paper in the world and all the milk, which has expiration dates, and all the bread and all the pizza rolls, the people like me who are like, I just want to get to next Wednesday.
Yeah, it's like, if looking, and I'm not a meteorologist, but looking at the weather, it has the potential to be bad for like a day or so, right? By early
7 hours.
By early next week, everything will be fine and back to normal, and you can resume life as normal. There might be a day where you got to hunker down a little bit, but yes, we don't need to go COVID panic and buy everything thinking we're going to be stuck inside for the next 8 months.
And I did. And now during COVID, I will admit, I was like randomly going to the grocery store just buying stuff like that I didn't, like, oh, black beans. I'm sure I'm going to need that, but why not?
Yeah.
It's 2 for 1.
Yeah.
And I think I've still got COVID supplies. This is also, I think, now look, I will understand. Ice could get bad. We could lose power. I'm not trying to downplay that. Lord knows. And I live out in Lexington, and the further west you go with Gilbert and Batesburg and all that, and I get at the infrastructure, I'm not trying to argue with all of you who are like, hey, moron, look at the infrastructure. I got it. But to your point,
we're
going to be okay.
Be fine.
But this is also where you find out who of your friends and family may or may not secretly have a doomsday bunker somewhere that they're not telling you about.
Yeah.
And so how are we at the store? I don't know. I guess I'll put out a tweet after the show at some point being like, hey, some of us just want food for the weekend, like to watch basketball with tomorrow in the NFL playoffs on Sunday.
I do actually have to go to the store to get some vitamins because I'm out of the vitamins I take every
Good news.
day.
I don't think they're taking those.
I don't think they're taking
Everybody
those.
skip that aisle.
Yeah, but I'm just like, I'm intrigued to see what's left, right, and how people have ransacked it in the past couple days.
Well, I see the videos of like the milk and bread. I don't get it. I'm one of those people that don't like milk and bread.
Totally. I get it. Sure.
Yeah.
Non-perishable, or it has an expiration date, but it'll last a while. Peanut butter sandwiches, whatever, toast, if you could have a power of a microwave. Like, you can do a lot of things with it, but like the milk thing, you never hear. I don't get it, man.
Like, I never hear of Krispy Kreme or Dunkin' Donuts being like, oh, God, we're on a shortage. Like, we can't keep up with the demand for donuts.
Yeah.
Right now, like me personally would think that like right now a lot of y'all would be just like banging down Krispy Kreme's doors to get like 36 donuts or Dunkin'. Like,
actually not a bad idea.
You see what I'm saying? Yeah. I mean, that is a multi-purpose item for breakfast, for lunch, for dinner. It can be a snack. It can be. I mean, y'all know me for 10 years. I've been on this radio station, and you know my love for donuts. So. Anyway, all right. Well, we'll get you through at least 3 hours, and then in all honesty, and I'll be out on Monday, not because of the weather. I will be down in Charleston at MUSC for another big doctor's visit. I may be out Tuesday as well, with something else going on. But we'll get through this, and we'll get moved toward the month of February, and a lot to get into today. It kind of feels like this is a weekend, Tyler, that sets us up for February because it feels to me like this is a basketball game. We'll start with that for South Carolina. We'll get into that against Texas A&M. That you can go in, and if this team is building some confidence, and they should. They had a chance against Georgia. They got blown out against Arkansas, but I don't think there's anything wrong with that. They played better against Auburn to give themselves. Now, Auburn was 2 of 19 last Saturday from three-point range. You led basically wire to wire against Oklahoma. I feel like I see, even in that Georgia game that they lost, that they should have won. I feel like I see a team that's growing a little bit, and you get a chance on Saturday against a team that's playing very good in Texas A&M. Texas A&M is not a lightweight, but to go there for 3:30 game, 2:30 College Station time, and if you can sneak out a victory.
It's moved up to 1. They moved it up to 1
Oh, did
today.
they?
Yeah, they moved it because of the weather. So tip-off's at 1 tomorrow, Eastern time, 12
Oh,
local.
did it? Okay, all right.
So
okay. You know what? Did they do that to the women's game, too, here?
Not yet. We haven't learned anything about that yet, but the men's game tomorrow has moved up to 1.
Okay, I stupid then. I saw it driving in, but I thought I read it was the women's. Like I was, because don't read your phone and drive at the same time, folks. And so, all right. So anyway, so they moved that up. But the point being is you go in and you try and you sneak out that victory. And what I feel like it does is it sets you up for next week where you get Florida, who's playing really good.
Right.
Might be the best team in the SEC right now, the way they're starting to turn things on. And then you get LSU to wrap up the month in a very winnable game. And as far as I would say maybe a must-win scenario next Saturday at Colonial Life Arena to keep the season going. So you see, I look at tomorrow as a huge swing game, even though you're going to be an underdog. And we'll talk to Brian Edwards about that coming up in about 24 minutes.
Yeah. Again, we talk about what these next couple games between them and Florida can set you up for. Again, do you feel like you can take care of LSU next weekend? If you can win one of these next two, beat LSU, as I said earlier on the week, then you have the opportunity to be playing for something in the month of February. Again, doesn't mean February is going to go great. And it could still, the wheels can still come off, and we still talk about coaching changes and all that kind of stuff. But you have an opportunity to set yourself up for something next month if you can find a way to win one of these next two. Not gonna be easy. Talked about Florida's hitting their stride. A&M's playing phenomenal right now. They have a tricky way of playing too that's going to give South Carolina fits tomorrow. But
Buckyball.
Yeah, if you can beat Buckyball tomorrow, then you give yourself a chance to maybe make something out of the season.
So we'll discuss that obviously a lot today. That'll set up the basketball. To me, that gives us a direction. And again, I feel like this is like a setup weekend because for us, for Tyler and Captain Dave and myself, we kind of look ahead to February and we go, okay, Daytona's coming up, golf is kicking into high gear. Oh, and Gamecock baseball is getting set to go. What are we going to do with basketball, and where's South Carolina at? It feels like these next three games are big setups, and tomorrow's an opportunity. We'll talk more about that. Then also, this weekend on Sunday, we got the NFL playoffs, which sets us up for the Super Bowl in February, and we'll talk with Brian Edwards about that, and we'll give our own thoughts. But you get a game that I feel like and I don't know why. I'll be honest with y'all, and Tyler, we talked about this yesterday, and you can maybe explain it to me. The game that I'm excited about is the Patriots-Broncos, but because of the Bo Nix injury, I feel like, and I said this yesterday, it's lost, to me, a lot of its luster. The Patriots, at least last look, was 4.5-point favorites.
I think it depends on what your flavor of football is. If you love just hard-nosed defenses and a low-scoring, grinding out type of game, I think Patriots and Broncos is probably going to be up your alley, and God, neither team may get to 10 points in that game for all we know. Whereas like Seahawks and Rams, which is the game I'm looking forward to a little bit more, I think has the potential to be a little bit more high-potent scoring, back-and-forth type of thing. That's kind of more in line with what we've seen through the playoffs so far.
So we'll talk a lot about that and get going. Also, I believe I didn't look to see the announcement time, Tyler, but we now have word of when the college of what the college football playoff will look like, at least moving forward to 2026. So we'll get into that. I don't know if they've already people are reporting it. I think an official announcement is coming within the next 3 hours.
Yeah, because today was the deadline. I didn't think they'd get it resolved this early in the morning, but as we know with college football news, when certain sources are talking about it being done, it's done, right?
Yeah.
So we can go ahead and take it as truth.
There is an official announcement coming, and we'll talk about this today. They are going to remain at 12 teams for next season. Count me in as happy and excited. It's been an odd 2 years. I went from last year kind of not losing interest is what I should say, and maybe not caring, to this year being like, man, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Let's do that all again. And so we'll talk a little bit about that today and get into that. Also, in other college football news, no surprise. I think it's no surprise. Fernando Mendoza, likely the number one pick, has officially declared for the NFL draft. By the way, welcome to 2026, Tyler, because I laugh at this stuff. I don't know what Fernando Mendoza says and doesn't say, but right now, like the AI-generated quotes, or maybe what he said, like, did you see the one where he basically said, I don't deal with girls, I'm only worried about football?
I did not, but I could believe somebody would put that out there.
That's out there. Then you got the one about Carson Beck. It just came across my Twitter. about Carson Beck, who's like out there saying like, "Oh, I didn't shake hands after the game." I don't know if that's real or not. But Fernando Mendoza, who has turned into quite the quote machine, and quite America's darling.
He was on Jimmy Kimmel last night.
That's what I'm saying.
Or Fallon. Sorry, Fallon.
One of them. Yeah.
I always mix those
the
two
shows
up.
I don't watch. But so Mendoza officially announces, and now we all kind of look at the Raiders and Tom Brady and go, is this your guy? Is this where you're going?
Seems to be. I don't see them trading that pick, and they need a quarterback, so you can go ahead and start crafting those number 15 Raider jerseys, start selling coming up here in a couple months. But in line with the great story of Indiana winning the national championship, I mean, I think we recognize that Fernando Mendoza was a good quarterback when he transferred away from Cal and certainly commanded a decent amount on the NIL market, but nobody was looking at him coming into the year. It's like, oh, this guy could be the number 1 pick and Heisman Trophy winner. So that's an even, just makes the story even greater for what Indiana was able to accomplish being led by Fernando Mendoza.
I'll say this, and it's always interesting because I feel like it's Cal, Stanford, Washington State, the old Pac-12 schools, that there's always a player that when they're there gets more attention than maybe they should, because it's like, hey, you want to stay up till 10:30 and 11 o'clock and watch a football game?
Sure.
Watch this guy. Like, I can't pronounce his name, but the kid for California now, the quarterback, who's average.
Yeah, JKS.
Yeah, like he's average. But, like, early on in the year, it's like, oh, you got to watch this guy. Look how special he is. Why? Well, because they played 11:30 at night, and you still got football going on. Well, Fernando Mendoza was that guy last year.
He was. It was just, ACC after dark. Kind of like when Luke Falk played at Wazoo for Mike Leach. It's like, hey, this guy throws for like 800 yards a game. You might want to stay up late and watch him sometime. So, yeah, he's kind of got that little bit of that flavor to him. And being on Indiana, playing on the East Coast, and being in a lot more high-profile games, we learned a lot more about him this year.
So, yeah, he was kind of, I feel like he was kind of known, but it was kind of like because of like, hey, if you're going to stay up late, watch this kid. And then this year he goes to Indiana, and now it looks like more than likely he'll be the number 1 pick in the NFL draft. And again today, announcing officially he will enter the NFL draft. So a lot going on. Also last night, Tyler, and we'll talk a little bit about it, the women's basketball team, these are good. I think when you're as good as they are, and by the way, thank you to Dawn Staley and the women's team. I don't care that they lost, for giving me something that kept me tuned in and then gave me extra basketball. I know it didn't go well,
sure,
but that's okay. And I think with Dawn's team, anytime you give Dawn a chance to coach, to get back on a plane
sure,
with her team and say, we lost that game, let's watch film, and I can be angry, I feel like that's a positive thing as long as it's not a win or go home situation, and last night wasn't.
We've all been on sports teams where we lost and that bus ride back to school was silent. And then before you get off, the coach tells you what practice is going to be like the next day. I imagine the plane ride home from Norman was something like that where, even like the slightest giggle is met with, I know you're not laughing back there. None to laugh about.
Right.
Besides that performance tonight. We're going to get this figured out tomorrow. So I don't envy any of those girls going to practice today.
Yeah, and I think that's a good thing. We know that Dawn Staley has built this juggernaut of a program into one that unfortunately or positive has defined not by what they do now in the regular season, but it's what they do in the Final Four.
Right.
Ray Tanner had the baseball program at that point at one time where do whatever you want in the regular season. We don't care. It's what you do in postseason play, and that's where Dawn Staley is. So a loss last night, ho-hum. At least I stayed invested all the way through the end of the game because it was a great game. Yeah, they lost. Who cares? I think it's a positive that Dawn Staley, as you just said, had that rolled up paper and probably strolled up and down the aisles of the plane flight, staring, making sure nobody was smiling.
Yeah, joy.
And then you had young ladies waking up this morning going, "Oh no, we got to go. We got to go to practice with Coach. Oh, this is not good." So I think that's a positive. We'll talk more about that. So a lot to get into, a lot to do today. If you want to be a part of the program, 803-404-6100. An ice storm might be on the way, but the text machine is working, and Captain Dave is ready to take your phone calls with your opinion. If you want to weigh in, you're listening to Captain Dave Adair, Tyler Head, Bill Gunner. It is the Halftime Show.
Time right here for our friends over at Tilly's Warehouse, first wine and spirit store in 5 Points in the past 20 years. Located on Green Street, right behind the Salty Nut Cafe in the old Pavlov's building. Get in there before the weather comes and get everything that you need for the weekend ahead. If you need things like G4 tequila, High Noons, Sun Cruiser, Surfsize, whatever you need, they got in bottles, cases, cans, all that stuff. Go down to Tilly's and check it out. And if you mention that you heard this ad on 107.5 The Game, you can get 10% off any wine selection as well over at Tilly's. Stay connected with them on Instagram or Facebook, or visit their website at tillyswarehouse.com for more information. And again, get there hopefully before the weather comes in and get whatever you need for maybe being inside for a couple days, and make sure you have what you need for all of that. Again, over at Tilly's Warehouse in 5 Points.
Ray weighs in on our text line, 803-404-6100. I'm heading to the liquor store to get all my storm essentials. Well, head on down. Tilly's. There you go.
Tilly's got you covered, man.
There you go. Get on down there. Tyler just told you about it and all kinds of great things. And, yeah, get on down there. I don't, unfortunately, Ray, I've been right there with you. So Sammy says, are you kidding? My kids would plow through a stockpile of Krispy Kreme in an hour or so. Hey,
well, maybe buy a couple boxes, man. 36.
36, 48, whatever it takes. Yeah, whatever it takes. Get you through the storm. We'll get you at least through the next 3 hours. Coming up in about 10 minutes, Brian Edwards of VegasInsider.com will join us, and we'll talk with him about the NFL playoffs in terms of, well, we'll talk both about the playoffs, but we'll also talk about some basketball games for the weekend and what's coming up there. But let's talk a little bit about right now the college football playoff. If you haven't seen, is going to stay at 12 teams. It's going to stay at 12 teams. I'm pro this, Tyler. 16 I think I'd have been okay with. Depends on how they would have played it out. But I feel like I feel like if it had gone to 16, it's another year of us learning. I don't want to learn right now. I want to enjoy. And I feel like I'm starting now to enjoy 12 and understand how it works. My argument is going to be, and I'm sorry, Tulane and James Madison and all you other, and I love Coastal. I'm very pro Coastal, but I'm sorry, I don't want you in my playoff. I want the 12 best Power 4 teams in there, and I definitely don't want to see a repeat. I'd love to see Notre Dame in this thing this year.
Sure.
And what Miami did now proves to me Notre Dame could have made a run, if they got into it and you get the right kind of setup that you need.
Well, I'm glad you brought up Notre Dame because it's important to remember, and this would have been the case if they expanded to 16 or 24 or whatever. Notre Dame has a built-in rule for next year where if they are ranked inside the top 12, they are automatically guaranteed a spot in the playoffs. So we could be talking about like the bubble conversation of 10 or 11, but if Notre Dame's ranked at 12, they would just jump those teams in front of them and get that final spot. That's part of the caveat. And as well, all Power 4 champions, regardless of ranking, get an automatic auto bid into the playoff next year. So a Duke would automatically be getting in. Now, I think the ACC is going to change their tiebreakers to avoid a 7-5 team winning again. But if we use these same rules, Duke would have gotten in the playoff this year based on the auto bid.
Here's the thing that I'll ask you is, and I don't think it ever changes. It is the one, and there's probably some other stuff, but like with college basketball, it always bothers me that it is the team that wins the tournament, the conference tournament, that gets the auto bid, generally speaking,
yes,
into the NCAA basketball tournament, not the team who had to navigate 16, 18, 20 games, right?
Right.
Like the team who actually had to do it for a full season. I wonder if where we see the SEC, the ACC, the Big 10, the Big 12 start to line up and go, okay, as you just said, who do we want to give that bid to?
Mm-hmm.
How do we want to line it? Do we want to do some kind of weird, like, regular season conference champion gets our bid? Because I don't know if there's a rule in here that specifically states how you decide who your champion, like, does the rule specifically state they have to win the conference championship game? Or can you just say, no, we're picking the regular season, even if and then we'll get to a tiebreaker.
Well, and it's funny that you bring that up because if you remember in the 4-team playoff, the Big 12 didn't get in the first year because TCU and Baylor split the Big 12 title because they didn't have a conference championship game. So they had to put in a waiver to be granted one because they only had 10 teams, because at that point in time, playing a conference championship was beneficial for getting a team in. We're kind of reversing course now, where you're saying, like, well, maybe you don't need a conference championship. Maybe you're better off by just crowning it based on the regular season. Now, that's more complicated because you got more teams in all these conferences now, but you're right. The Big 12 could look at this and say, well, we don't want a situation where a worse team could get the auto bid. And, let's say BYU had beaten Texas Tech in some kind of crazy game back in the Big 12 championship. I don't think anybody would have looked and said, well, I think the BYU is the better team here and is going to far better in the playoff. It's like, okay, they've managed to beat Texas Tech in weird circumstances. So you're right. They could look at this and say, now there's the revenue aspect of having a conference championship, which muddies it up a little bit. But if the Big 12 thinks they're better off by crowning a regular season champion and giving them a playoff spot, they could do that.
Well, I go back, and I guess where I kind of go with it is on this, where do we start to draw the line, like where who was it this year? Kylie. I mean, this just goes to show what conference championship games mean. Georgia and Alabama played. And we both, Alabama, going in there, we felt Alabama was in the college football playoff.
Yes.
where do we draw the line where conferences get smart? And I'm sure they already didn't go, well, those two are already in. Let's have Mississippi and Vanderbilt play each other, or somebody where when they win, it looks better on their resume and sneaks them and pushes them over the top. Because let's be honest, Vanderbilt this year, just hypothetically, if Vanderbilt had gone and played in the SEC championship game, and let's say they played Texas A&M, right? I don't know. Come up with your own scenario. You kind of see the lot of caveats and asterisks to it. But let's say Vanderbilt plays and Vanderbilt wins. You're already talking about, well, Texas Tech deserved to be in.
Mm-hmm.
Georgia deserved to be in. We were already saying Alabama deserved to be in. Why not? Mississippi, we kind of felt they deserved to be in. But again, let's say, and here I'm looking at it now, Oklahoma got in. So you had Mississippi, Georgia, A&M, Oklahoma. But let's hypothetically say you had Texas and Vanderbilt play in the SEC championship game to join those other four that were already in.
Yeah, and that'd be that extra data point that those teams usually on the bubble aren't
By the way, we're 6-2 if you're wondering. That was kind of the cutoff line.
And like you said, when the committee moved Alabama up to, I think, 9 prior to the SEC championship, when I'm like, okay, there's their fail-safe,
right,
where that basically guarantees they're going to be in, even if they lose by multiple scores, which they did to Georgia in that game. So, yeah, I think, because they talk about data points, right? Like, well, these teams didn't have data points, we can't move them around, even though they did with Miami and Notre Dame. But, yeah, if you're the SEC and you want to get ahead of this thing, you say, you know what, instead of having, and here's the thing, if you put Texas and Vanderbilt in Atlanta on the first weekend of December to play in, essentially, to the playoff, you're still going to sell the place out. You're still going to have fans. You're still going to have people watching. So you're not losing the financial benefit of what that game is, but the stakes of it, I think, become more important. And yes, maybe you're not handing out a trophy because you're not calling anybody SEC champions, but it's more beneficial in that sense of like, hey, here's an extra data point for the committee to consider about these two teams as opposed to two teams that we know are already going to be in.
Well, I guess the other point to that is if you want to argue for your 5th conference bid or 6th conference bid or whatever, fine, make somebody earn it. Make somebody earn it. If we're going to go with, well, the Big Ten gets 4 and the SEC gets 4 and so gets 2 and 2, okay, all right. But if you're going to argue you want 5 or 6, somebody else needs to earn it. And in this scenario, you put Texas and Vanderbilt in there because we already feel safe with the other ones for whatever reason, then I'm okay with that. Yeah. Let those two play. They'd already played in the regular season, but let them play, and the winner gets in. But with 12, to wrap this conversation up, I feel like we get to enjoy what we are getting to know for at least another year.
Yeah, now, again, we got another deadline coming up in December to decide 27 beyond that. The SEC and the Big Ten are butting heads on 16 or 24. The SEC wants 16. Big Ten wants 24. Can they come to an agreement? I don't know, but like you said, at least for the time being, we know what we got next year. It's the same thing as past 2 years, minus some tweaks to how you get in and stuff like that. But I've enjoyed the 12-team playoff. I was never like beating the drum, we got to expand past 4, because I enjoyed the 14 playoff, but I've enjoyed the 12-team. It's been fun.
Yeah, 803-404-6100. We'll get into some NFL talk and some basketball games for the weekend when we come back. Brian Edwards, a Vegas Insider, said to join us. It's the halftime show.
It's all right here for our friends over at Canty Foundation Specialists. As you've been hearing all week long, there is a lot of weather coming in this weekend. Rain, sleet, snow, wintry mix, all that kind of stuff. Well, it's all made of water. And when it comes in, especially in the volume we expect this weekend, there's going to be a lot of standing water that could end up in your crawl space underneath your home. And I've told you many times, you absolutely do not want that. Standing water in your crawl space can invite things like mold and mildew and even pests like termites into your home, which you do not want. About half the air that you breathe in your home, by the way, comes from your crawl space, so you don't need to be breathing in nasty, mildewy, moldy air. Well, that's our friends at Canty Foundation Specialists come in. Go online to schedule an appointment today at cantyconvicts.com. They'll send a professional out to your home to evaluate your crawl space and foundation issues and get them fixed so you and your family can live comfortably going forward. Again, go online to schedule an appointment today at cantyconvicts.com for our friends at Canty Foundation Specialists.
12:34 on a Friday. Tyler Head, Bill Gunner, Captain Dave Adair, and joined now by the one and only a man who's not afraid of a big ice storm because he's just making money, hanging out, watching sports while it's happening. Brian Edwards of VegasInsider.com, MajorWager.com. Make sure you check out those websites this afternoon, tomorrow morning, and definitely on Sunday before the NFL playoffs. Brian, welcome in. Hope you and your Florida Gators are doing quite well as we've been talking about Florida basketball, and they're kind of turning a corner right now.
Yeah, man, sorry I missed last week's show. Had to fly up to Nashville Friday and check out my Gators, and I like how we're playing. And since you asked about it, I'll go ahead and knock out one of those picks. DraftKings has got Florida 9.5 tomorrow to Auburn at home. I like the Gators minus 9.5. I made the number 13. Auburn, not that it really matters outright because we're laying 9.5, but Auburn has not tasted victory at Florida. I'll let you guys guess. When's the last time Auburn won at the O-Dome, in y'all's opinion?
I'll let you take it. You want to guess?
I can't even guess
He's
on
going to
that
come up
one.
with a number that I'm not prepared for. I feel like it's going to be ridiculous. I'm gonna go with like 96, 95.
Look at you. Bill Gunter nailed it, 96.
Was it 96? That was their final four. That was right around their final. That was when they had that whole group, Porter and was it Fishback?
Yeah, when I saw that, I was thinking Chris Porter when I saw the year yesterday. That was my first name I thought.
Okay. All right. Was that team or was that early? Was that am I
well,
right?
I didn't go double check it or anything, so I'm not positive on that. But that was just the thought I had, like you. Florida's won 15 in a row at home to Auburn, and 11 of those wins by 12 or more, 10 by 16 or more. And then that's just historical. This year, Florida has won 5 in a row right now by straight up and against the spread, and 4 of those wins by 15 or more. Auburn did get a road win at Ole Miss the other night, and Ole Miss has been playing pretty good. That was a solid win. And I don't know if they beat them by double digits, but they covered. And anyhow, but that was Auburn's first road win. They're still 1-3, both straight up and against the spread on the road. So big fan of the Gators tomorrow.
Real quick, since we are talking about them, and not that Alabama's the next opponent, I did find it funny what Todd Golden said about the Charles Bediako situation, where he's like, I don't care, we're going to beat him anyway, no matter who plays for him. So I can respect the confidence.
I like that too, and I will say that he's had Nate Oates' number here recently after the first part of his tenure, not so much. But I think we've won 4 in a row over Bama, and 3 of them were pretty bad beatdowns of I want to say each were at least by like 17 or 18.
So you got that one for the weekend. We'll stay with I tell you what, some basketball for a second here. Another one is a team that to me is Jekyll and Hyde. Arkansas at home against LSU.
Well, at home, they are undefeated, and they have been an absolute juggernaut, 11-0 straight up and 9-2 against the spread at home. Now, LSU's been pretty good on the road. Now 1-3 straight up, but 3-1 against the spread. But Ken Palm, this number I have not yet seen, but Ken Palm had Arkansas 9, and I made Arkansas 13. So if Arkansas is 11 or fewer, I will be on the Razorbacks as their 3 home games in SEC play. They beat Vanderbilt by 25, and they beat South Carolina by 34, and they beat Tennessee by 11. So they are rolling at home. So I'll be on the Hogs at 11 or fewer at home tomorrow against LSU.
Again, talking to Brian Edwards here in the AAA Heating Air phone lines. Let's look at the conference championship games coming up this weekend, down to the Final Four. I know the Seahawks are the odds-on favorite when it comes to winning the Super Bowl as a whole. You're leaning towards seeing a rematch of, I guess it'd be Super Bowl 48 between the Seahawks and the Broncos.
Yeah, I am. Now, I will say it was a good thing that I did not come on the show with you guys last Friday because, unfortunately, I went 0-4 in the NFL right now. So I'm ice cold in the NFL, and your listeners are warned. They might want to fade me. And I haven't even bet either one of these games because my confidence in the NFL is absolutely shot right now. I had the Bills. I thought I was on the right side in that game. And what did y'all think about that interception? I thought that was a catch, and he was down.
I always thought Ty went to the runner, as in terms of the wide receiver, but I guess not.
I'm with Tyler on that.
Yeah, I thought it was a catch. But anyhow, then the Niners, and that was just a horrible pick. Yeah. And then C.J. Stroud, I'm not his biggest fan right now, that's for sure.
Most people aren't.
So, anyhow, I'm leaning Seahawks and Broncos, but I have no confidence. I will say that if anybody can get a quarterback ready that hasn't played since 2023 and only has 4 career starts,
that's a good point.
Can get him ready to play in a game of this magnitude is Sean Payton. I remember Bridgewater when Payton won his last couple of years in the Saints. I think he went 5-1 as a starter. I know when there's another injury, Jameis Winston had some success with Payton. So. And you saw how he had already done his media obligations. He goes back in the locker room, he finds out about Knicks, and he decides to go back to the media and speak highly of Stidham. So I think he got out in front of it, and that had to be a confidence booster for Stidham. We'll see. Doesn't matter what happens on the field is all that matters. But I'm leaning Broncos. They still have a great defense. And I think Peyton will call the game, for Stidham. Like, I don't think he's going to make him play with 2 hands tied behind his back.
Let's go to the other game here. By the way, I just, what is your thoughts, just individual thoughts on Drake May and his development now, who seems to be coming into his own for the Patriots?
Well, I mean, I think in general he's been fantastic. I didn't think he was very good last week, but look, Houston's defense is, in my opinion, is the best in the NFL. And when you got Will Anderson, smelling your breath every other play, it's not a good situation. But, hey, they still won by double digits. But I didn't think May played particularly well last week. But, again, I mean, that's just a ridiculous defense he was playing. Now he's playing another ridiculous defense at altitude. So we'll see. But, again, I lean Broncos on that one. Do y'all want the hypotheticals for the Super Bowl?
Yeah, real quick. I was going to ask you about this. Go ahead.
Yeah, so looking at FanDuel, they've got Seattle 7.5 to Denver. That was 8.5 yesterday, though. Seattle is minus 3.5 to New England. The Rams are minus 8.5 to Denver, and the Rams are minus 3.5 to New England.
Okay. All right. Did you give your Seahawks Rams pick, or did we stick only with
I don't have much analysis there. I just lean in Seahawks because it's less than 3, and they're at home. And I thought the Rams got out-coached last week. What McVay was doing, throwing the ball so much. He's got the number 1 run offense. You're playing in the snow. You were tied or in the lead the whole game, and it was like a 34-10 pass run ratio at one point in the second half. So I'm not real confident in McVay right now. I think they've been fortunate to escape with 2 wins.
Okay. Let's see. Going to, you got some UFC fighting a little bit. We'll get to that, and then I want to come back to some Heisman talk. So real quick, UFC thoughts for the weekend.
Yeah, 2 plays. They're both underdogs. If we get a split, we'll get a nice profit, but hopefully we'll sweep. I'll start with Derek Lewis, the Black Beast, the heavyweight, the crowd favorite. He's a plus 267 underdog in a main card fight. He's won back-to-back in 3 of the last 4, and the only one he lost was to a wrestler. And the guy he's fighting is not a wrestler. He's going to stand and bang with him. So Lewis is the all-time leader in career knockouts. I think he gets another one tomorrow as a significant underdog. And then in the main event, I'll go Justin Gaethje plus 200 to Patty the Batty Pimblett. Patty's the younger man, and Father Time's undefeated, but Gaethje's only 37. He's not in his 40s or anything. He's still in top form, and Pimblett's never been in there with a striker or a violent guy such as Gaethje. So Gaethje plus 200. If we get a split, we'll profit at least a unit, and if we sweep, we'll be loving it.
And then finally, before we let you go, got about a minute with you. Heisman thoughts, and you send us something on Lenora Sellers for next year.
Yeah, so odds are out for the Heisman. Arch and C.J. Carr at Notre Dame are the plus 800 co-favorites. We've got Lenora Sellers. Wow, I thought he was 20-1 yesterday, and he may have been, but he's 30-1 now. It looks like those are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Those are the 14th shortest odds on the board, and the odds to win the CFP next year, Notre Dame plus 600 favorite, followed by Ohio State plus 650, Texas and Indiana 7-1.
Brian, we always appreciate it, buddy. Hope you stay warm down there. Hopefully you don't have any issues with the storm. I think you're just kind of right on the cut line there for anything, and we look forward to catching up with you next week.
Thanks, guys. Have a great weekend.
Take care. Brian Edwards, VegasInsider.com. Make sure you follow him on Twitter at VegasBEdwards is how you do that. And you can also check out his work at MajorWager.com. We'll come back and wrap up our number one as we roll along. Tyler Head, Captain David Dare, Bill Gunner. You're listening to The Halftime Show. Thank you again to Brian Edwards, our weekly guest on Fridays, for his take there on some basketball. Again, he leans with the Broncos. That's it. That's a pick. Like one thing I like about Brian, he doesn't just give you some thoughts on games. He gives you what he like. Now, as he admitted, he may hit or he may lose.
Well, and I respect the fact saying, hey, I missed last weekend.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna put you in a bad spot by giving you some picks this weekend, because sometimes when you're cold, you're cold.
But, he goes with that. And then also he mentioned the Arkansas thing, and that kind of ties back in with what we'll talk about with the basketball stuff later on in the program as it pertains to South Carolina. Arkansas at home is an absolute beast right now, blowing out South Carolina, what we saw in a game that looked like the varsity versus the B team. And then they kind of did the same thing to Vanderbilt earlier this week, but on the road they're a different team. So go with that, and then a little bit of Heisman talk. We'll get that podcast up for you later on. You can hear that. One thing he also talked about was the Super Bowl. So now we go into this, and Tyler, when you look at this, do you have a Super Bowl matchup?
Yes.
Like a game? Like let me be clear.
Yeah.
I don't have teams I'm pulling for here.
Okay.
I have kind of what you've asked on our rundown, storylines and situations. So what do you want to see for your Super Bowl?
I want to see Rams and Patriots.
Okay.
I want to see Matt Stafford on what I think should be his MVP year go up against a really good defense and another MVP candidate in Drake May. The possibility, and I don't deny the fact that Stidham and Darnold can have good games this weekend and potentially in the Super Bowl. I just think you have a better quarterback matchup with Drake May and Matthew Stafford.
Okay. All right. I think that's what the NFL wants.
Yes.
I think the NFL wants your matchup. I think they'd love to promote the old guy, Matthew Stafford. Like we said, maybe this is his last year, although he's having kind of that little bit of a renaissance thing. I think he's basically wrapped up the MVP. Are we probably right on that?
I think so. You never know with the voting, and May makes a good case, but I think his numbers this year are just astronomically better, especially for a guy his age. So I think he's going to win it. And again, it's based on regular season, not postseason. But I mean, his regular season was ridiculous.
Also, just for the record, as I look at my calendar, Matthew Stafford will be 38 on Saturday, May 7th. What nice storyline would you have that the day after his 38th birthday, he gets to play in the Super Bowl for a chance to win and move on to and collect his second Super Bowl ring. Listen, I'm going to go opposite, though. Well, not opposite. I want to see the Patriots in it.
Okay.
I want us to have the storyline of Sam Darnold for 2 weeks. And then I like to say Seahawks, Patriots sounds like a lot of fun. But this Sam Darnold story, I think I'm becoming older, and I think the kidney issues are making me more what's the word I'm looking for? Like more of a softie, if you will.
Okay.
Do you know how old Sam Darnold is? Off the top of your head, do you know?
God. Is he not even 30 yet?
He's not 30.
He's not 30. I don't know, like 27, 28.
Yeah, he's 28. He's 28. He'll be 29 this
but
summer.
It feels like he's been around the league forever.
That's my point. And here is a guy that you're talking about, again, that came from Southern Cal, kind of, good, and I'm saying it like a good-looking young man. The world was in front of him.
Yeah.
Not his fault he got drafted by the Jets. Like, it's kind of how the cookie crumbles.
They openly put things out there about him seeing ghosts and having mononucleosis. That whole tenure was bizarre. And I think we've seen in the past decade, you just have that Jet stink about you, right? Whether it's coaches, whether it's players. Sometimes you're just at a place where you can't have success. And maybe that's what held Sam Darnold back early in his career. And
then he comes to the Panthers, and I kind of like the pickup for the Panthers, and it looks like the Panthers have gotten it right with Bryce Young, but I love kind of the comeback story for him being the third overall pick. And again, as I said, and I say this as a guy who watched and has done the football recruiting thing, and you look at kids and you look at their build and everything. He's kind of like Matthew Stafford in that he was a big kind of strapping kid, if you will. I mean, really, they're built. Sam Darnold and Matthew Stafford are built about the same. 6'3", 225, 230. They were both kind of similar in that coming out. Big arms and everything. It's just something about the storyline of him coming back through adversity that I really love. And I would love to see him in the Super Bowl having a chance to kind of turn into that guy that everybody expected him to be.
It's a redemption story, and again, went to the Panthers and didn't have a ton of success there. Was a backup in San Francisco, got his opportunity with the Vikings. I was going to be a backup until J.J. McCarthy went down in the preseason, and they go and have this phenomenal year, and he's a big part of that. And then, they're obviously going to go with McCarthy going forward in the future, so gets an opportunity to go to the Seahawks with a young head coach in Mike McDonald, and they're on the cusp of maybe going to the Super Bowl. It is a really compelling story if they can pull that off.
I'd be interested for that, but I can't also argue with you if it's going to be the Rams. But those are the two that I'm pulling for. I'm with you, though. I think the NFL would love the storyline of Matthew Stafford, the old veteran, the old wily veteran, turning 38, probably ready to ride off into the sunset. And I think the other storyline there, remember the last time they won it was, would Sean McVay walk away?
Yeah, that's right.
And I would wonder if McVay's a different kind of coach, man. Correct me if I'm, didn't he just have another baby?
If not,
his wife did.
Yeah, something like that. And he's obviously very young still. So you win 2 Super Bowls, man. What else? What else is left?
I need to look that up. One coach just within the last 6 months just had another baby, and if it's him, I could see Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford going, fellas, we've had enough. All right, hour 2 on the way. 1 o'clock on a Friday. I don't know if you want my permission, but I give you permission to just go ahead and say the day's over and you're done with work and you're heading to the grocery store now. Tell the boss. You want to join me on that? You want to put your name behind that?
I think the threat of weather can be used for a lot of excuses. Like, I'd stay till 5, but, I got to get this, got to get that. I got to prepare. I think you might be able to finagle your way out of some stuff. But it's like, hey, man, that weather's coming. I got to make sure, I got enough, popsicles in the freezer or something like that.
Am I wrong, Dave? You two kept up with this, by the way. Is the weather not supposed to be here till Sunday?
Yeah, that's what it's kind of looking like now. Like late Saturday night into Sunday is kind of when it's supposed to hit. And, I constantly am looking at my weather app. It's gone from, mainly rain to, some snow to wintry mix to rain again. There's going to be something falling from the sky. In what state, I don't know yet.
No, all of them. I looked at the Weather Channel. I watched the Weather Channel. That Progressive commercial, the insurance commercial about us turning into our parents, and there was an old one about the rain, about the weather.
Yeah.
There's not a more true commercial that's ever been made than that one about us turning into our parents about the weather. And I'm as guilty of it as anybody. Y'all know this, again, being here for nine years. You know that I love donuts, and you know that I'm an amateur meteorologist. But yeah, and so I sit there and I'm watching the Weather Channel again this morning. Yeah, all the states are covered in a color.
Yeah.
Purple, blue, pink. We're all,
Is it one of those things where your son walks in and you're like, see? Look at it. It's bad.
Oh, my kids are more annoyed with me, but also because of where we live, on Lake Murray, and my bedroom, I've got sliding glass doors to look out over the lake, and I look back toward Columbia. I'm looking toward the towers and the dam, and I've got this. I'm not bragging, but I'm trying to explain something. This beautiful view out back toward Columbia. And so I can overlook Columbia, and I can overlook the dam, and so I can see storms moving.
Yeah.
Across the lake and across the city and everything. There's not two more irritated people in the world than my kids with me when I'm just sitting there watching weather go across the lake, and I'm like, come, hey, look, see how there was a couple years ago when we were doing COVID shows. I don't know if people remember this, and we were doing the live stream, and I was doing the show one morning, and there was a storm, one of the bad storms, and I had the way I had the camera set up, and we caught lightning crashing.
Really?
And it's a really, really cool picture. Yeah. And yeah, I'm a amateur weather geek. So yeah, I'm like you, I'm waking up, turning on the weather. I'm like, what's happening? And then this morning, all the colors, just all the states are under a color. They're just I don't know, put Florida in blue. What is blue? Now you got to look up at the top of the screen where they've got the little color code, and you're like, blue means 1 to 4 inches of ice. Okay, all right.
I think Florida's the only state not getting touched though. They're in the 80s still.
Yeah,
which must be nice.
All right,
seriously, the most important thing: charge your batteries, your computers, everything that uses batteries, operation of anything, because if power goes out, guess what? And then when you get them charged, don't watch cat videos. Don't scroll through and go, hey.
That's hard, Dave, man.
Yeah,
especially if you're sitting around and there's nothing else to entertain you. YouTube is like the Green Goblin mask calling you hey, don't you want to watch these shorts of these cat videos, man? And then you're like, oh, well, I just wasted an hour, and there goes 30% of my battery.
Yeah. The other thing, too, is if the power goes out, you're going to be cold. So do you have blankets? Do you have a lot of blankets? Do you have some way to keep yourself warm? And I don't mean, start a fire in the middle of the living room unless you have a fireplace.
That would violate my lease, Dave.
That would? You sure?
Yeah, I think there's a clause in there about that.
Okay, well.
I can't have a grill, so I don't think they wanted me to start fires in the living room.
Also have lots of water. Bottled water is good.
Yeah, it makes more sense than buying milk, personally.
Yeah. And have food that doesn't expire, that doesn't go bad when the refrigerator goes out.
Like milk and eggs.
Milk and eggs, exactly.
What's gone from the grocery store? Milk and eggs.
Yeah, it makes no sense. I saw a lady one time
make sense.
Buying 2 cartloads of meat. She just went to the grocery store and cleaned out everything. She got pork, she got chicken, she got beef, she got sausage, she got chicken wings, chicken legs, chicken thighs, everything. I was like, what? If the power goes out, lady, that's all going to go bad. You're just going to have to throw it away.
I mean, got to just. All right, number one, I want to go back. Terry Ford, if you're listening, or if we can clip this, I need it as a show opener or something of Dave telling people not to watch cat videos. All right, we need that. I want to make that a PSA to everybody.
Okay. It was like 104. Yeah, I can work on that.
We got to have that as an opener, the halftime show with Captain David Ayer. Don't watch cat videos. No context needed. To your point on the food, Dave, I mean, I'm with you. Get a cooler. Get a cooler, man. Stock it full of ice. You'll be ready to go. Or borrow somebody's freezer that has a generator. All kinds of ideas.
Yeah, true.
This is also a good time if the power goes out that you can clean out your freezer by eating everything in the freezer, right?
Yeah.
Or my pro tip is just don't open the doors, and it'll stay colder longer.
We had that too.
We had the hurricane a couple years ago. I legitimately didn't open my fridge for 2 days. I'm like, well, it's not going to help it by opening it, so I'm just going to leave it closed and hope for the best. It worked.
I'm with you. All right. Well, we're serious about it, but we're also going to joke a little bit about the weather, mainly because if you've lived here for, again, 43 years for me, if you've lived around here, you know that Southerners, we don't handle changes to our weather pattern very well. And anytime snow or ice are mentioned, there's a tad bit of a freak out. We'll see. Hopefully it will not turn out to be as bad as some are projecting, but do be prepared. And going back to how I originally started the conversation, if you want to put my name behind it, tell your boss, hey, the kid on the radio, Gunner, said it's okay to leave work at 1 o'clock on a Friday. I'll back you up. I can't save your job, but I'll back you up and say I did say that. So get your weekend on and go relax and have a good time. Going to be a fun weekend. We got Chris Deering coming up in a few minutes. There's going to be some high school games tonight. Those are still a lot of them on. We'll talk with Chris about that. Region realignment, some big names moving around. We'll talk about that. Another high school football coaching job comes open down in the Low Country. That's a massive job. We'll talk about that. But on Monday night, Martin Luther King Day, this past week, we had the national championship football game, and I was fascinated. I wanted to know the number because Tyler, again, and Dave, I wanted to know, I was into it more, and I don't speak for everybody, but I was more into this playoff, and I was really interested to see what Miami and Indiana would bring back numbers-wise for the national championship game. Well, the numbers are in, and it's a record.
Yeah, it's massive. This is the most watched playoff game since the original playoff national championship with Oregon and Ohio State back in 2014. And I think there was a lot of intrigue around that one of, hey, just what's this going to look like, new thing and all that kind of stuff. But, yeah, I mean, they beat last year's national championship by like 8-9 million viewers. That's just on average. They peaked at like 33.2. And you know, yeah, part of it is like, oh, the U's back in the national championship. But, like, I think a lot of people have just been captivated by this Indiana story. Like, hey, can they actually pull this off? And, you know, I didn't have a side I was wanting to see win necessarily, but I wanted to see the story come to fruition with Indiana. That's what I was pulling for. It's not the team, but the story of them completing it, which they did.
I think, again, as you mentioned, I think it was the story. I do think getting Miami in there. Miami is probably, if it's not Miami, it's Notre Dame, but is the universal program that you love to hate.
Right.
And I think that helped. And I mentioned it several times leading into last week, and some of y'all were like, I think Bill's a closet Miami fan. But it was fun because Miami is so obnoxious. They're so in your face. I mean,
Michael Irvin's running up and down the sidelines.
It's 110. I think I can mention this. You know, what is it? ESPN showed the video of the essentially adult film star that was a Miami fan that's now like, this story is ridiculously stupid.
I'm sure they did that on accident.
Yeah. Oh, we didn't know.
Somebody knew.
But, you know, the truth is, like, there's so many things that Miami brings to the table that brings the casual fan to the table. And then, as you mentioned, the Indiana storyline, and we built up the Indiana storyline, thank you, social media, by having a million different memes and GIFs of Kurt Signetti going up and down the sideline with his facial expressions. And it was like the perfect storm. I don't know if we'll get that again, but I also feel like that is closer to what we should get and want than quite frankly, Georgia, TCU, or Michigan, Washington.
Yeah, and again, it was a competitive game, too. That's the thing. When you look back at the ratings of Georgia and TCU, people checked out of that game pretty quickly. It was like, oh, this is going to be a butt-whooping, and the ratings weren't as good. Where this one, it's like, even if you're coming in at halftime, you're like, oh, hey, tight game. Miami scores, to tighten it up. And you got back and forth, and it comes down to the final drive at the end of the game. Like, you had a compelling game that kept people locked in for 4 quarters, too. And, like, last year's national championship did come down to the very end. But remember, Ohio State got that big lead. Yeah. And, like, they opened it up on Notre Dame. Notre Dame came back, but I imagine a lot of people are like, all right, Ohio State's got this in the bag. I'm going to go to bed or watch whatever NBA game's on or whatever it may be. Like, this one kept you locked in the whole time.
Yeah, and the numbers, again, peaking out, as he mentioned, the averaged 30.1 million viewers, according to Nielsen. Second most watched college football title game and cable telecast on record. As Tyler mentioned, Ohio State's win over Oregon in 2015 still has the record at 33.9. According to ESPN, it was the most viewed non-NFL sports telecast. Let me repeat that for you out there, because we don't have time. We got Chris Deering coming up, but this goes back to my NFL national championship game versus NFL playoff game. The most viewed non-NFL sports telecast since Game 7 of the 2016 World Series between the Cubs and the Indians. That
was a great story of the Cubs ending their long drought. Well, we love a good story when it comes to sports, but yeah, that's how significant this was and how much that story captivated the nation. Again, we've gotten used to seeing the Ohio States, the Georgias, the Alabamas play in these national championships and win plenty of them. This is the most fresh matchup we've had in a while. Like, even Michigan, Washington a couple years ago felt like, all right, I've kind of seen something like this before. This felt brand new, and it was kind of nice.
It helped. You had, obviously, one other part of this, the largest living alumni fan base in America, in Indiana, being a part of it. And then you had the U, which, again, easy to dislike, easy to pull for if you want to be that person. And so I think it was very attractive. And now the one thing we know is we get the 12-team college football playoff again for another year. We'll continue talking about that, but good numbers for the national championship game. It does back up my opinion. The product on the field, when you put everybody in the stadium between the lines, is phenomenal. When the product on the field ends and we have to go into the offseason and we have to discuss players, which we will in an hour, leaving programs, and then you have to track them down for money.
Yep.
Not quite a fun sport to be a part of. 803-404-6100. A lot of high school stuff to get to. Chris Deering joins us next. It's the Halftime Show. No, we will not back down. We will keep doing the show, and we will keep rolling along. Welcome back in 117 on your Friday. Tyler Head, Captain David Dare, Bill Gunner, and joined now by the man, the myth, the legend, the one and only Chris Deering, who does the absolute best job ever of covering high school sports. And Mr. Deering, here we are. We start in August with this, and we worry about heat. Now we get to January, and we worry about game cancellations because of ice and snow, and that's kind of where we stand here over the next few days.
Well, let's hope that does not come to happen. Nothing as far as I know. Well, I take that back. There were a couple games with area teams that moved up to last night. Hopefully, nothing happens for the rest of the day, and we get in everything tonight, and then by Tuesday, when games really start back again, everything's cleared out and we're ready to go.
We'll get to these games. We'll get to what you're talking about, but let's start here with a big thing for me. I'll admit, with my son now going into Gilbert, the high school system, and now playing on the basketball program, I was intently watching region realignment over the last 2 days, really the last 2 weeks. I was paying close attention to some of the appeals that were being made, in particular Brooklyn Casey, who wins theirs. Let's start with just your overall thoughts. And according to what I have here, it appears your very first thought is the one that I instantly noticed. Lexington, and I watched Gray Collegiate. You and I texted about this the other night. I watched Gray Collegiate play basketball. I love my school. They play a big one tonight against River Bluff, and a great friend of mine in Ben Lee. Lexington, Dutch Fork, River Bluff, they all dodged a massive bullet with Gray Collegiate not ending up in their region.
They most certainly did. First glance at the regions when they came out yesterday afternoon, that was one thing that stood out. Not altogether surprising that they put Gray Collegiate with Blythewood, Ridgeview, Spring Valley, and Sumter. A little bit more travel, obviously, for Gray Collegiate than if they were in that Lexington region. But I didn't think they would put them in there. So that Region 3 did not change. Just the same as it's been the last 2 years. They kept the same schools together. And that, Gray Collegiate moving up to 5A, that might be another discussion for another day. But, I don't think that's where they belong, but that's where they are for the next 2 years. And, the good thing that comes out of this, we get Gray Collegiate and Ridgeview twice in basketball over those 2 years. So interesting to see how these things pan out. You look at 5A, and, I always look down at the Low Country first when I'm looking at things. And they put the one thing I didn't understand in 5A, they put Stratford in the region with a bunch of Charleston County schools, which is normally fine. But they put Wando in a region with Berkeley, Cane Bay, Carolina Forest, Goose Creek, and Socastee. They had to put Carolina Forest and Socastee somewhere. They were only 2 5A teams from that Horry County area. That makes sense to put them with that. But for Goose Creek and Cane Bay, when they go to each other, they have to drive by Stratford to get to the other schools. So that don't make a lot of sense to me to put Stratford in a different region than those teams. I think you swap Stratford and Wando, and it's an easy fix. But, we don't know who's going to appeal yet. The appeals will be heard February 3rd through the 5th. A lot of things are still – I think we're going to see some appeals. One thing I mentioned to Tyler, you look at Irmo, they're in a region with Aiken, Fox Creek, Midland Valley, North Augusta, South Aiken, and 4A, and, not a Columbia area team in their region. So they might be looking to move. So I think you're going to hear some appeals coming up over in that first week of February, and just to see who wins and who loses to see how all this thing pans out.
How long are these usually set in place for? Because, again, realignment never stops. We're going to be right back to the drawing board, in 2 years, right?
It's every 2 years. Yep, they do this every 2 years. And, it's because of the enrollment changes. And, we got the multiplier in place now, and that changes a lot of things. Gray's got 610 students, and they're 5A. And you look at South Florence and West Florence, they are the two biggest 4A schools, and they're actually larger than some 5A schools, but they won their appeal, and back down in 4A. So, a lot of things goes into these decisions, I understand. But some of it leaves you sort of scratching your head about, well, what is everybody thinking? And if you're truly about student-athlete safety, I don't know how you can put a school with 610 actual students in a classification with schools with 15, 16, 1,700 or more students. But again, I can come into the studio one day. We probably can talk about that for a full hour. So I don't want to go down that rabbit hole today.
Yeah, I appreciate that because I could probably carry you to 3 hours on that conversation based on something I saw the other night that you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, with that being said, real quick, let's move to some football discussion. And you mentioned the Low Country. I believe it was Scott Eisberg down in Charleston. I saw earlier today that had the news. It looks like Goose Creek, which is a big job in this state, will have an opening as at the football position.
Yeah, Jason Winstead's been at Goose Creek, I think, since 2018. A really good guy. I've met him on several occasions. He stepped down this morning, it sounds like. I know Goose Creek was gutted by the transfer portal this past year. He actually played a full season with a bunch of freshmen and sophomores. So Goose Creek might be on the rise in a couple of years, but Jason decided to step away, and that one's come open. And I got a text right before we went on air. There might be another job opening. I'm not ready to report it yet because I don't have confirmation, but there might be a school in the upstate that just had a coaching change as well.
Oh, all right. A reason to tune back in next Friday. Good teaser. Good job. Let's look at a couple basketball matchups tonight if you want to get out and go catch a great high school game. We got a lot of great high school basketball throughout the Midlands, and let's start right here in town. Newberry making the trip over to Keenan for that game tonight.
Yeah, Keenan is they are dealing with the Zach Norris situation, and he's still not coaching the team, and it's unknown when he'll be back. But they've lost 2 games this week, and that's unusual for Keenan. They're ranked in the top 10 in the state in 2A. They lost to Fox Creek the other night. It was the first time they've lost to Fox Creek in school history. It went to overtime, and I heard Keenan was without one of their better players in that game. Curious to see if he's back tonight. That's where I will be for the Watch 57 game of the week with Stacy Huff. We'll be broadcasting the boys and girls game starting at 6. So, see if Keenan can get back on the winning track. Playing a pretty decent Newberry team that was going to bring its own challenges. So we'll see how that one turns out. But, Keenan's not used to losing, 2 in a row, and they're on a losing streak coming into the night.
I would say another game tonight. Also, Dutch Fork taking on Irmo.
That's a good one for boys and girls. The girls matchup is Irmo's Division II and Dutch Fork's Division I, obviously, but that's a top 10 matchup on the girls' side. That girls' region is really loaded. I think you can throw Chapin in there and Lexington in there. They're all very good. Chapin did suffer a huge setback on Tuesday. One of their best players, Reagan Haggard, she tore her ACL, so she's out for the rest of the year. So I hate to see that for the young lady. She's been on varsity, I think, since 7th or 8th grade. She's a ETSU softball commit, really, really good student, really good athlete. And so I hate to see that for her. But that's a good region for girls basketball, and if anybody's to win right now. And then on the boys' side of things, Irmo, they hit a little slump a couple weeks ago, but they seem to have righted the ship. And they play a Dutch Fork team that has just got voted this week. They're number 1 in Class 5A Division I. So they're talented. I've seen them this season. They got a lot of talent. They're pretty deep, and they're going to be a team to be reckoned with when the playoffs start here in a few weeks.
Oh, Brett Jones working his magic. Let's look ahead real quick to Tuesday. Next Tuesday is a monster game in our state, barely in our state, but Gray Collegiate, who, again, I watched this past week. They take on North Augusta, and it doesn't matter what classification that is. That's really a top 5 showdown of teams here in our state, again, regardless of what classification you're in.
It is, and I actually saw them when they played the first time. That was one of those rare occasions where they had a a region game before Christmas break, and I went and saw Gray Collegiate in North Augusta. Very competitive game. Gray pulled away in the fourth quarter to win that one. I know last year North Augusta knocked Gray out of the playoffs, so no love lost between these two teams, and this could be a hostile environment when they go to North Augusta. And that's probably going to be the toughest environment they play in all season, is my guess. And that's going to be a good one. Like I said, a lot of talent on both of those teams. I've actually seen North Augusta a couple times this year. They played in the Lexington Round Ball Classic and got to see them then. And so, like I said, I saw Gray and North Augusta earlier. So a lot of talent on both sides. The game you saw the other night, Bill, I saw some highlights from it. Did Gray have like 20 dunks?
Don't put me on the spot, man.
It was a lot. Don't
put me on the spot. I will say this about North Augusta, and you mentioned I haven't been to their new facility down there. I'll never forget going down there my junior year to play them for a region championship, and I didn't play. I was a junior. We had a really good team. Ben Lee, who's the head coach at River Bluff, Devin Lyford, is now at Raven Gap over in Georgia. Benjamin Ryan, really good. We had a lot of great players, and I remember warming up for that game, and I'm being heckled, the guy who doesn't play, by the North Augusta fan base. And I'm like, yell at the starters. Stop making fun. My feelings are hurt. Stop making fun of me. I don't even play in the game. And we got in foul trouble. I had to go in the game, and I threw one into the stands, about 4 rows up into the stands. And, man, I was like, get me out of this game. These people, North Augusta, you mentioned it, environment. Kudos to those people down there. It's a heck. Irmo was always fun, but boy, North Augusta down there. When I was at Lexington, that was fun. Chris, we always appreciate it, man. A lot going on, and we look forward to catching up with you next week.
Sounds good, you guys. Be safe this weekend and have a great weekend.
You too as well. You too as well. Chris Deering, again, follow him on Twitter. cdeering82 is the way to do that. We'll come back and get back into some South Carolina hoops talk. You're listening to the Halftime Show. Bill Gunner for Mid-State Roofing. Well, here we go. Snow, ice, rain, wind, all these stuff that comes with a wonderful weather apocalypse is coming our way. Is your roof ready to handle it? Well, if not, guess what? Today, right now, actually, as soon as you hear this commercial, you need to call Mid-State Roofing and go ahead and line up a maintenance contract. 803-356-1919. This is where Mid-State Roofing shines. They're ready to help you. And you know what? Maybe you're going to forget about it. It happens. I understand you got a lot going on in life. But the great thing about Mid-State Roofing is they're there for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So if something should occur this weekend, you wake up in the middle of the night, you got a leak, something has transpired, go ahead and give them a phone call. They'll be there for you. You'll speak with an on-call technician. Again, that's 803-356-1919. Write this number down again. You might need it. 803-356-1919. That's Mid-State Roofing. Feeling our new bumper music that Tyler put together. Pumping me up. That's what I need. More energy at 1:35 on a Friday afternoon. Hope you're doing well. Thank you again to Chris Deering for the high school breakdown. I'll admit I've paid more attention to these new regions. If you're like me and you've got a son or daughter that is in sports in particular, or you're just a big fan of your high school, these new regions coming out was very, very interesting yesterday, and something we'll certainly continue to monitor for the high school aspect of things moving forward. But thank you again, Chris Deering, joining us. Coming up in a little less than an hour, Jordan Kay will join us, and we'll talk some South Carolina football as well to round out our guest list for today. But right now, a little bit of South Carolina basketball. And tomorrow, Tyler, you mentioned it, Texas A&M has moved up this game. It'll now be, I didn't look, you said 1 o'clock. Is that going to be Eastern time, so noon their time?
Yeah, noon their time, 1 o'clock here. Of course, you can listen to it on the game. Pregame coverage starting at 12:30. SEC Network Plus will have the TV for that game. And Lamont Pierce talked about a little bit last night in Carolina Calls that, because Texas is also going to have some of this weather coming through, and they don't want to get in a situation where they have to be stuck in College Station through like Monday or Tuesday. So they're trying to kind of get ahead of it. And I don't know of any other games this weekend that have been moved around, but that one at least so far.
I haven't looked. So again, we'll keep you updated on that. But let's hear. This is Lamont Paris on Carolina Calls last night. And one of the unique things about Texas A&M is buckyball and the way they like to press and what they want to do to you. Here is Lamont Paris talking last night about the Texas A&M press.
Huge victory in our league this year. I mean, the number of teams that come in and at one point or other throughout most of the non-conference were averaging a number that started with 9. There were a lot of teams in our league that were doing that had broken the century mark multiple times. And this is certainly one of those teams. So, it's a different style. We'll get into that, but they press the entire game. And not just, a lot of people do organized pressure. And so after made baskets, maybe you do this free throw situations, dead balls, you do. But this is even on misses, just 2 guys are going to run at the ball. You're hardly ever, I won't say never, but we will hardly ever rebound the ball and then just dribble it unabated up the court on any possession in the entire game. And that's what they want it to look like. And so, we simulated some of it today, but tomorrow we'll get into the weeds with it pretty deep.
I actually think that that's a great thing for South Carolina. Look, at least the last game, whether it was inadvertently, whether it was by design against Oklahoma, whether it was finally realizing and buying into your identity, and I'm sorry for being blunt, South Carolina's not good in the post.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the way to put it.
Yeah, that's true.
That's what the way they are.
Yeah.
They've got to play small ball. Elijah Strong, I'm going to use a really bad reference here, but I'm going to use it because Draymond Green is roughly 6'6", 6'7". That's got to be kind of your facilitator, and Elijah Strong's played really well of late. He had 17 the other night. Obviously, at his height, he's not your prototypical 6'10", 6'11" big guy, but he's kind of got to be your big guy. I go back to when Villanova won the national championship. I think the tallest guy that started that year for them, they did have some 6'10" guys, but I believe was 6'6". They played a smaller brand of ball. South Carolina has to buy into that, and I say that because everybody can handle the ball. And in this scenario where you play a team like Texas A&M who wants to press you, you've got ball handlers. You might not have a legit point guard, a gripe I have with this basketball team, but you have ball handlers in Michi and Mongolian Mike. Elijah Strong can handle it. Kobe Knox can handle. They might not be your prototypical point guard, Tyler, but it actually works where that's not a bad matchup for South Carolina.
Yeah, and we'll see if one of those guys proves over the course of the game to be able to handle it handle it better than the others. My concern with them is wearing down throughout the game. And I watched the game the other night with A&M and Mississippi State, and we kind of know Chris Jans to be kind of a hard-nosed, tough type of team, and I just saw them get worn down by what A&M was doing by pressing them and obviously running up and down the court, because that's what they like to do offensively and shoot a lot of threes. And my question becomes of, okay, can you withstand this for 40 minutes and hang in there? Because, again, this is not a Carolina team that's built to, overcome deficits anyway. But if you get down early in this game, how do you deal with having to do that over the course of a longer period of time? I don't know, but it's going to be interesting to see.
Well, I disagree with you. I will say this. I disagree with you on that. They are built to overcome deficits, and how I mean that, when you're built in the manner they are to shoot the three, you can do that. Now,
they got to make them.
We know the number. Yeah. There's where you're right. The numbers do not bear out being able to do it, but they are built that way, and that's going to be a big part of it tomorrow, is being able to knock down the 3-point shot. But I do like the matchup. Now, the other part to this, that again, you have to kind of buy in as a basketball person. They're not a good rebounding team.
Right.
And again, that goes back to, all right, you accept who you are, you play who you can, and that means it's a 5-man job to rebound the basketball. But Texas A&M is going to take a lot of shots. Again, buckyball at its finest.
Yeah.
High volume, a lot of basketball shots. And the one thing you cannot do is allow them to get second opportunities. It's got to be a one and done. You do that and you make your shots and you handle this press defense, easier said on a sports talk radio show in climate-controlled studios than it is in a game fast-paced. But that's what they got to do. But here is Lamont Paris last night talking about the Texas A&M fast-paced, high shot volume offense that South Carolina will see tomorrow.
They were playing the same way and just pressing the entire time, fast, get it up, play. So now you take that, and he's doing it with more talented players overall. And so I think there's certain things you can't do. You can't turn the ball over quickly and get them into some situations. I think your shot selection has to be pretty good. I don't think you can just – they're going to be 40 shots, 40 in the game. They're like, not a. I think I could do this. This should be something, and you're going to have to lay off of 30 of those just because it's time and situation is not the shot. It's kind of what they would like you to do.
Right.
And so, it's unique. They play. I'll tell you what makes it work, honestly. The guys that they have are so committed to playing unbelievably hard, and they play so hard that they only play. They're leading guys probably in the low 20s, mid 20s in terms of minutes per game.
I love, as a basketball person, I love listening to Lamont Paris get into the weeds about basketball.
With an shot?
Because I know exactly what he means. And he's what he's saying is there's going to be 40 shots tomorrow where, as the fan or as the coach, you're like, really? What? But that's the way the game is played. That's the way Texas A&M speeds you up. And as you heard him say there, it's going to be up to South Carolina about 30 different times. Be like, that's not the shot we want. And I don't know if he trusts his team. Look, with those guys he's got on that team, I don't know if he trusts his guys to be like, I'm not going to take that shot.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we know, guys like Michi obviously will pull up from just about anywhere. So you have to be a little bit more disciplined with that. But again, it all depends on game flow. And quite frankly, how you get started. Again, when you look at the two games they've won, and be it against teams not on the level of A&M in Oklahoma and LSU, they've gotten out of the gate really hot. Right? And a lot of that had to do with Elijah Strong in both those games, particularly the other night against Oklahoma. So how you start this game tomorrow, I think, is very indicative of how the rest of the game is going to go for them.
803-404-6100 is how you can weigh in. Again, that game will be tomorrow. We will have coverage for you starting at 12:30 with Casey and Derek. Tip-off set for 1 o'clock. Do we know if there's a change on television?
Yes, SEC Network Plus.
Okay, so not on his streaming. You can only catch it streaming?
There's multiple games going on, so you can only stream the game tomorrow.
All right. 803-404-6100 is how you can weigh in. But there is that. When we come back, we'll wrap up the hour. I know a lot of you out there, Tyler, a lot of people out there, you know what they do in January?
What's that?
They go to the gym.
Yes, New Year's resolutions.
New Year's resolutions. Well, I got one professional head coach who might tell you, maybe don't go to the gym. It's a bad idea for you. I'll explain that. You're listening to the Halftime Show. 1:48 as we head toward wrapping up hour number 2, and then we'll get into hour number 3 again. Jordan Kay will join us to talk about a couple different stories for South Carolina football. I'll admit the Jaden Gibson story is kind of irrelevant, but I do want to get his side of it. He wrote an article on that.
It's more details on things that we had talked about when he initially committed to South Carolina, that he had been involved in some of these things. We just got more details on exactly what those were with his story.
We're not going to dig like too deep into that. It's not the real reason that we had booked Jordan Kay. We had booked Jordan Kay to discuss what I think is a really interesting story, both locally now and nationally, and it's following and keeping up with how players that sign these NIL contracts or rev share contracts, look, Desmond Umizulu isn't the first one, but all of a sudden want to back out and go to another school.
Yeah.
And, we all know tampering is a real thing. I'm not saying Alabama tampered. I have no idea, but it seems more like maybe South Carolina took another defensive end, and Desmond Umizulu looked at the room, read the room, and went, that might not be a spot for me. My snaps might.
The timing suggests that because, Caleb Herring commits to Carolina, then a couple hours later, Desu goes in the portal, and he could have been privy to that information beforehand, and pretty quickly thereafter, Alabama snatches him up. So, there's a lot of reasons for why this happened, but again, the crux of the matter is the fact that he had re-signed and was promised a dollar amount that now he leaves. Like, okay, well, somebody has to pay said dollar amount. How are we going to work this out?
And the other interesting part, and this is where I want to have Jordan on, is like, did he get dollar amount?
Yeah, is it paid up front? Is this an installment thing? That is a good question.
Because I would assume if he didn't get it up front, now, number one, given I don't care how old you get, I'm 43. Give whatever. Here's the other part I kind of want to know. There's a lot to get into with Jordan on this and what he can share, what he knows, and what he doesn't know. And again, that's why we wanted to have him on. Some of y'all on Twitter yesterday lost your mind because we're having him on. But number one, did Desmond Umizulu get the money up front? 2, it's a supposedly 6-figure number that they're going after here.
Yes.
6 figures varies.
Yeah.
100,000, you're like, well, that's, 100,000 is 100,000. All right. If it's closer to $500,000, all of a sudden my eyebrows.
Yeah.
Right. And let's be honest, $500,000 right now to a defensive end is kind of like chump change.
Yeah, because again, like the quarterbacks, obviously very valuable. Left tackles, skill position guys, running backs, receivers, all the high dollar. Defensive end ain't far off, and we know, we have an idea of what like Dylan Stewart gets as one of the best in all of college football. And not saying Desmond Umizulu was anywhere in that neighborhood, but even being a solid contributor can net you a decent amount.
But again, I wonder, like, did he get the money up front? So there's a lot to that story that I think is interesting, both from a South Carolina standpoint, as well as, okay, how do we follow these issues moving forward into the future? Because the day of amateurism is over. We knew that. You know that.
Is dead.
And so this, what is coming about with litigation, and we're pursuing this, is professionalism. We're watching it at Duke as well. On the flip side, it appears Duke's winning. Then on the flip side of that, you got what's happening at Alabama with basketball, where they're like, yeah, you played in the G League. Come on back and have a few more years. You're perfectly fine.
At least as long as this restraining order is valid.
Which turned out the judge, by the way, might have been heavily involved in the Alabama Booster Club.
Weird how those kind of things happen.
It was something straight out of my cousin Vinny, essentially, just on the sports level. 803-404-6100. You ever heard of Craig Bayroby?
I have now.
All right. It's a radio program, so this story doesn't hit home quite like I want, but hit might be the key word. You need to look up Craig Bayroby. Berube. Who's Craig Bayroby? He is the Toronto Maple Leafs coach. Why do I say that? Because I know, like a lot of you, on around December 30th, December 31st, January 1st, everybody, Tyler, makes a New Year's resolution. And I think, genuinely speaking, resolution number 1 is probably like eat healthier. Resolution 2 is go to the gym more, right?
That's usually kind of the stereotypical ones of, hey, after the holidays, I'm going to start working out every day or 3 times a week or whatever. And you go to local gyms, and they're suddenly packed on, January the 5th.
Well, if you go and you look at a picture, you Google him, Craig Bayroby, Berube, and you look at the injury he sustained during workouts. The article reads, he suffered a gym accident resulting in a significant head injury. Said he appeared during their morning skate. They do a kind of the little press conference or whatever. He appeared with a severely swollen, I've looked at the picture, severely swollen black eye and revealed a deep cut on his head, which required 12 stitches.
Yeah, you can see the stitches pretty clearly.
Yeah, he's balding a little bit. Go and check it out. Look at it. Bayrobi apparently is known as one of the tougher players in NHL history. He ranks 7th all-time, Tyler, in NHL penalty minutes in his playing career. He was a defenseman. So this is an older man and a coach who has no problem apparently with stitches and or banging his head around.
If Bill Gunner suffers this accident, how long are you down for?
You and Terry wouldn't see me for like weeks. Nobody would. I mean, you got to go look at it. You're like, what are they talking about?
It's pretty nasty. And again, he talks about it very casually, like, oh, it's just a little gym accident.
Yeah.
You're like, no, sir, that is much worse.
I mean, I don't know if a weight like fell on his head. I don't know. Yeah, he's describing this just a bad accident.
I'll tell you this: you better not be a player complaining about pain.
Oh my goodness, especially in the NHL.
My knee kind of hurts. Say your knee. Let me show you something.
That's for all of you that just thought, hey, I got an idea. I'll just head right on back to the gym and everything will be fine. I'll drop those pounds. You got to watch out, man. Those gyms are dangerous.
There's plenty of people using this as justification to their wives for not going back.
And
See what happens?
I'm with those people. Hour 3 on the way. We'll keep it going. Final hour of the program. We'll get you set up here for Terry Ford, Jay Phillips coming up after us, and then we'll head on into the weekend. A weekend, Tyler, that again kind of, I think, really sets us up for February, whether it's college basketball. We've talked about South Carolina and Texas A&M tomorrow, a game that I'm really interested to see from South Carolina's standpoint. Can they take some momentum that I feel like is built? They didn't get over the Georgia hump. Had Georgia right where you wanted them. Mm-hmm. Let them off the hook. You lose that game. You go to Arkansas and you go to Auburn and you lose. You come back, you get the victory this week against Oklahoma. Had to have that one. I think some confidence is building, and it's a game, again, it's a matchup. South Carolina comes down to shooting. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. For all I know, they're going to be 3 of 47 from three-point range tomorrow because the opportunities are going to be there. But it sets up kind of where South Carolina can go into that game. And if they can shoot the ball well, above 30%, and you handle what A&M does, you're talking about picking up a win that you didn't expect and moving you to 3 and 4 in conference.
Well, in their last game against Oklahoma, and again, Oklahoma and A&M are two very different teams, they took advantage of getting opportunities inside the paint because that Oklahoma defense obviously wasn't good. They shot their fewest amount of three-point attempts on the season in that game as well, ended up making 9 of them, which helped them, kind of cruise to that victory. So what kind of opportunities does A&M present and how you take advantage of that? We already know that this team in of itself can't really defend the paint really well, so you're going to have to beat A&M, much like Georgia a couple weeks ago, if you were going to win that game, of trying just outscoring them. And again, they held Georgia to 20 points below what their season scoring total was, and you're going to have to do something similar to A&M tomorrow.
803-404-6100, so you got that. I tell you what, Dave, if you don't mind, let's hear real quick. This is Lamont Paris talking about Eli Ellis's injury because I will say this. It's interesting with Eli Ellis. They do need him to come on, Tyler. They need him to come on. He's battling an ankle injury. He's been battling some ankle injuries for the season. But the way he's played, there's two parts to this. You need him to come on, but there is a freshman wall that most of these kids run into because it's more basketball. Now, he might be different because with Overtime Elite, the one thing he did was play a lot of basketball. But here is Lamont Paris last night talking about the injury situation with freshman guard Eli Ellis.
Well, I mean, he's improving. This is the latest report that I've gotten, that he's improving. He did do some stuff on the court today. It was not in a 5-on-5 manner. So I don't know. Okay, let me frame this up. So it's a different time now, I was always trying to trick, when I played, I was trying to trick the trainer into telling the coach that I was good enough to play. Whatever that meant, right? Yeah. And so that's not where we are today. Guys are very cognizant of whether they are 100% or not. That's not critical. That is just where we are. And so, a lot of times you are reliant upon where does the individual feel? What do they feel in terms of what they can contribute? And so I think we're moving towards that direction. We're getting close, but I don't know that based on today. We'll see what tomorrow looks like, what Saturday will ultimately mean for Eli. And he's one of our best ball handlers, so going up against, on the road at Texas A&M, what a valuable asset. And he always is, but even more so in that environment.
How do you take those comments? Like, do you hear that? I mean, do you hear that? Like, am I the only one that takes those comments kind of, I get what he's saying, and Lamont is not trying to throw a player under the bus, but do you get what he's saying there?
Are you going off that he's implying that he's not trying to make himself available?
I don't.
As in he's not willing to play at like 85%?
Out of pure fear of going off on like a political area or like in the world today, I don't know how to word this properly, but I think there would be a lot of people who would be like, kids aren't as tough these days as we used to be. And I'm at 43, so I'm probably closer to more of the kids than I am the people who say like, wipe it off, so dust it off. Is the bone, are you injured or are you hurt?
Is the bone sticking out?
Yeah,
then you're fine.
I feel like I'm probably closer to that. it just kind of comes across, although as Lamont saying, like, I think he could be to me. And this is me, and this is sports talk radio. You know, we do an entertainment show here, but this is sports talk radio, and I don't want to, like, call anybody. I'm not trying to call anybody out, but I am trying to speak to something that we just listened to, and we're trying to speak to a program that Lamont, I mean, let's be honest, Lamont Paris's job is on the line here.
He needs all hands on deck, and Eli Ellis has been a very valuable asset to this team so far this year.
And when I hear Lamont Paris say, like, he gives his own personal experience of, like, hey, in my day, I would have played.
Yeah.
That's how it comes. I would have tricked the trainer. I would have told the trainer.
Somebody into thinking I was okay enough to play and just fought through it.
Right. And so that's Lamont saying this. And then he comes back and he's like, well, in today's age, you got kids who are very cognizant of, like, oh, I'm pretty injured, you know, or maybe I'm still injured, I shouldn't play. And I also get that side of things. I mean, I truly, truly, truly do with what I'm dealing with my son and his ACL and trying to slowly bring him back and not rush him into action. So I do truly understand that. But it is an interesting when I hear him say that in a situation that which South Carolina does indeed, as you heard him mention, Eli Ellis is one of the better ball handlers. Yeah. And I do feel like Eli Ellis is due to break out. Eli Ellis is not a bad shooter. Whatever has transpired this year that has led to him shooting is not who Eli Ellis is. And there's going to be a time if he gets back on the court and he's healthy where that changes, in my opinion, and hopefully it's for South Carolina. But I think it's an interesting like Lamont Paris is battling here, knowing that there's a lot on the line starting tomorrow and moving through the end of February.
And if this same injury happens in a season where you're not sitting at, 2-4 in conference play, you feel pretty comfortable about where your job's at, maybe you don't say that kind of thing. But like you said, he knows he needs as much help as he can to get things back on track. And we talk about how valuable the end of this month is. If you can beat either A&M or Florida and beat LSU, you put yourself in an okay spot going February. And like you said, you need good ball handlers against a team like A&M. It's going to press you for 40 minutes. Well, there's one of your better ones in Eli Ellis that right now it seems like it's tracking not to play.
And look, Ellis makes things happen. I mean, I can't tell you the shooting numbers for Eli Ellis are shockingly bad.
Yeah.
They are. I mean, that's being honest about it. Compared to what I think we all thought coming in, like even if he was having a bad year, you'd be like, okay, he's closer to, like, let's just theoretically say 28%. And you're like, man, you know, again, and you do the numbers on that, that's making right around 3 out of every 10 3-pointers. And given what we saw and what we expected coming in, you would have been like, okay, that's actually pretty bad. He's shooting the 3 ball has been shockingly bad this year. Like, do you now he's been injured. He's been injured, so he hasn't taken as many threes as you might think. He's taken 51 threes, and we've talked about this. I've mentioned this percentage. But do you know how many 3-pointers Eli Ellis has made? 3-pointers.
Yeah.
Eli Ellis has made this year?
I don't have the official
I'm asking. I don't want you. I kind of wanted you to guess, like what you would assume based on what the hype was around Eli Ellis.
You said he's attempted 51, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Stop adding it up. Just guess.
Yeah, 12. 12 out of 51.
You cheated.
Well,
cheater.
Yes, there's your official number.
Yeah, 12. You want by comparison's sake? Now, Eli Ellis has played 435 minutes. 435 minutes. Norton Kapich has played 104. A little less than a quarter. Kapich has made 7 threes this year.
Yeah. And
you see what I said? And so that's what I say, like, Ellis, the 3-point shooting is shockingly bad. And I'm not blaming the kid. I'm not like, hey, he's out. I don't think he's out there purposely missing it. But 23.5% is not the player you thought you were getting. But he's doing everything else really well. From the field, he's 42%. That's not bad at all.
Yeah.
From the free throw line, he's 85.7%.
Yeah.
That's pretty darn strong. He's averaging... He's doing things you want. He's still averaging basically 10 points a game. He's averaging, for his size, 3 rebounds a game. He's averaging 2 assists, almost 3, he's not averaging. His numbers, he's not averaging 1 turnover per game. He's averaging 0.9. I'm going to round down and give him credit on that. You see, his numbers are side. He's having a good freshman year, and yet he's shockingly bad. So if you had him tomorrow, and it's interesting to hear, though, Lamont Paris say, like, well, back in my day, I'd have kind of fought through where I think he's at and played and trick somebody. He, on the other hand, kind of looks at who he's at and says, probably can't do it.
And you Wonder what that dynamic looks like in practice. Because he says he's doing stuff, some full court stuff and all that. But how does that go over practice of like, hey, I think you'd be doing more. I think you're holding back on me, sandbagging a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, what's that dynamic look like?
Well, I'm going to bring it up just because we're having this conversation, but it's not reminiscent. But we all remember what kind of Shane Beamer and Juice Wells kind of went through.
Yes.
At that point.
Yeah.
In a season where there was no doubt that they needed Juice Wells. And there were rumors about, and there's no rumors about Eli Ellis, and I'm not trying to question him because I'm working off of the words of Lamont Paris, but there's no doubt that South Carolina needs Eli Ellis because he is a strong contributor to this basketball team.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Again, what Paris said there doesn't give you a lot of hope and optimism that he's going to go out there and play tomorrow. We'll see. Maybe we'll be surprised by that. But
and also to give me a lot of hope that he's going to be back to the beginning of next week for a big game against Florida.
Yeah, you're not overly optimistic about that. But again, like you said, what he gives you in the elements of the offense that he has actually done pretty well would be very valuable against both of these teams.
So, big win tomorrow there for the game, guys. 803-404-6100. We'll get into a little bit of football, transfer portal talk, but I'm more interested in this Desmond Yumi Zulu story as it pertains to, all right, what is South Carolina doing to acquire their money back? Has money been paid out? Do we have an official number? Do we have an idea on this, on what Yumi Zulu should owe? Is Alabama going to pay it? There's a lot to the story, and it's not just with South Carolina because, Tyler, again, it feels like we're going to see more and more of this as schools now learn you put biting language in these contracts to lock these guys in, and then these young kids who probably aren't getting proper advice decide they want to break it.
Yeah. Very true.
We'll talk with Jordan Kay of the State Newspaper next. It is the Halftime Show. Bill Gunner for AAA Heating and Air. Boy, I can't think of a better time to be doing a heating and air commercial than right now with the weather on the way. Let me tell you, if you have any questions or concerns about your heating unit, I would think that today is the day. It's not bad out there right now. It's tolerable. It's about to not be tolerable. So if you have any concerns, any thoughts, if something has been clinking, clanging, maybe it's not working in the manner that it should, today is the day to call AAA Heating and Air and speak with them as it pertains to getting out and getting some maintenance. Maybe you need a brand new heating and air unit. Well, AAA Heating and Air has a lot of great options, including guaranteed financing. You heard that right. A 15-year parts and labor warranty. So give them a phone call. Don't wait another day. With this weather coming and the cold air coming, make sure that heating and air unit is working. 803-677-1500. Again, that's 803-677-1500. Call AAA Heating and Air. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you. 217 on a Friday. I'm ready for the weekend. I'm ready.
Your weekend started yesterday, Bill.
It is. It's just true. Well, I was having a great weekend until a man that draws quite the reaction. I put on Twitter that we were going to have Jordan K. Jordan, how's it feel to be one of the more despised people in town, man? You got me yelled at for the stuff you write. Why are you getting me yelled at, Jordan? I thought I was in a good mood yesterday. I was having a good time. I'm like, we're going to have Jordan on. I mean.
Yeah, it's I enjoyed a nice glass of bourbon last night and shut off my phone.
Hey, it comes with the territory, man.
Yeah, you're just doing your job. I learned things about myself at 4:30 yesterday. I didn't know. I was like, this is awful to learn at 4:30 on a Thursday, but you're doing a great job, man. I'm glad you take time out of your day to join us. I thoroughly do appreciate you doing a heck of a job, and we're glad to have you on. I don't want to spend a lot of time on the Jaden Gibson situation. I told Tyler I wanted to have you on the Desmond Umizulu story, because that one to me is far more important, far more interesting. But real quick, you put the article out on Jaden yesterday. Just kind of update us on what you were writing about there.
Yeah, and I think, like, the first thing is, I saw on Twitter a couple people of saying, like, hey, what's the point of bringing this up now? And like, a little, like, behind the scenes on our reporting is, like, he committed, like, in early January, but then he took, like, 3 weeks for him to sign. And so basically we had the story and had all the police reports and the stuff, but we waited until he signed. And so it came out literally the day after he signed, and we gave notice. So that's that. But yeah, Jaden Gibson, I mean, was a guy that Shane Beamer recruited out of high school in Florida. So there was like a commonality thing. But yeah, he was playing for Oklahoma, and last year when he was still a part of Oklahoma's team, was in Las Vegas and got charged with some domestic violence related charges. And so he ultimately agreed to a plea deal in September. He acknowledged the first offense misdemeanor domestic violence charge, and that'll be dismissed if he attends 26 domestic violence education classes and stays out of trouble for a year. So by the time he plays for South Carolina, if it comes to that, there's a chance all the charges were dropped. But, South Carolina says they knew about it and did their due diligence. So, I'm sure we'll be asking Shane Beamer, coming up about that, of just, hey, what made you feel confident of bringing this guy on the team?
Understandable. And look, and like you said, if he does what he's supposed to do, he'll be exonerated. Well, I guess he's not exonerated, but everything will be dropped.
The charge will be dismissed if he finishes up. He has to go back to Las Vegas on June 16th for a follow-up court appointment that they described as a status check.
Yeah, and I think you just keep an eye on it and you move forward.
Yep.
And I don't know if you had it or somebody had it, but as you said, South Carolina said they vetted this thoroughly. They're comfortable with it, and if they're comfortable with it, then you go from there and you see what happens. I assume that's your take on it as well.
Yeah, I just, I think it's, if you're bringing a guy like this who has this charge, I just want to hear from Shane Beamer or Jeremiah Donati or someone and say, what makes you so confident that, this is behind him and stuff. And if they feel confident in it, then you go forward and hopefully he deserves a second chance and makes the most out of it.
Very true. Very true. All right. Well, let's move to what I really wanted to get you on when Tyler got in touch with you, and that is the situation with Desmond Umizulu. I'm fascinated by this. I'm probably talking Tyler's ear off about it because I don't think it's just a South Carolina thing. I think it is a national thing when we see these contracts. What information can you share with us that you have been able to gather? Has Desmond Umizulu, was he paid up front? Is that why we're trying to get the money back? Do we know what the number was? Do you even know why he's necessarily transferring? Does it have something to do with Alabama stepping in, or maybe more because South Carolina took another defensive end?
I don't know the exact details of that. I mean, I know it was a six-figure buyout. My guess is, like, some of the speculation of, I don't think he would have been paid up front. My guess, though, is like the buyout. I mean, there's a clause in your contract. Hey, if you leave, this is the buyout. In the same way a coach who leaves has a buyout in their contract. That doesn't necessarily mean they need to pay back what they're already making. But, if Shane Beamer were to leave for another school, he owes South Carolina whatever $4 or $5 million. So I think it's written in similar verbiage, but, we've never seen those contracts. I don't know exactly why he left, but I did think it was pretty striking that, like, the announcement that he was entering the portal came, like, hours after South Carolina signed Tennessee edge Caleb Herring. So I don't think that's completely coincidence right there. And this is a guy who's been at South Carolina for 3 years, has the frame of basically Dylan Stewart, 6'6", 240 pounds. In 3 years, he's got 30 tackles and 1.5 sacks. He just hasn't been super productive. You're kind of hoping, hey, if Brian Thomas Jr. moves on, maybe as a senior, he could be the guy to start opposite Dylan Stewart. But maybe when he saw Herring come in, he said, you know what, I don't think this is for me.
This is one of those situations, and again, we've all been kind of learning as we go with the changes in college sports over the past couple of years that could lead to changes. I don't know if it's language of contract or the way they do deals with these guys. Like, if you've read into this, is there any solution in your mind of how these things can be prevented going forward? Because we're seeing it across with Darian Minson, these other players at other schools that have signed these deals and agreements. They're now just trying to go somewhere else, and lawsuits are coming out and buyouts and all those kind of things. Do you see a resolution for how this can be fixed going forward?
I mean, there's big picture changes, obviously. Like, you have to, I think this gets to changing all of college sports, which, I know a lot of athletic directors have talked about. Like, collective bargaining is probably one of the most clear-cut solutions, at least to me, of getting all this resolved. I mean, if you're collective bargaining with the players and the universities in the same way, the NFL or MLB is, you can kind of negotiate a lot of these things and stop it from happening. But, that's probably a long way away. But I think that these buyouts being enforced is going to start or kickstart that. And also, if these schools are smart, you write these buyouts and make sure if these buyouts start being enforced more and more, I think that'll lead to schools being able to write in these contracts and almost up the buyout a little bit in the same way that the coaching contract. Hey, if you leave in the next 3 weeks, the buyout is going to be something exorbitant. And I really, that's why I'd be curious to see the full details on the Umazulu thing and some others, especially, with the Clemson linebacker leaving for Ole Miss. Like, if these buyouts get super crazy and they actually are enforceable, I think that prevents a kid from moving on because who's going to pay the buyout?
No, I'm with you. I'm listening to you talk. I'm processing all this, and it does feel like, in a way, and good for South Carolina, and that's why I wanted to have you on. Good for South Carolina, because it feels like this is the university taking a little bit of power back and saying, all right, we're gonna financially take care of you now. That's what you wanted, but you're locked into this. There's no more freedom in the banner that you had the last 3 or 4 years.
No doubt. I think this is a massive win for South Carolina, and it'll be more of a win, if and when they get the money. But from everything I've heard, they seem pretty confident that they'll get it, and it doesn't seem like there'll be a holdup. But yeah, of course. I mean, this is a massive win if they get this, of saying, hey, if you want to leave, that is your problem. We don't want guys who don't want to be here. But if you leave, you also have to know that someone's paying us. Whether that's you, your agent, the school, someone's paying us. And if that comes to be, I think you can kind of say, this is a business. We're sorry you left, but if you don't want to be here, at least give us our compensation. I think that's at least a way that kind of makes everything feel a little more, I don't know, fair is the right word, but it makes you feel a little bit better on both sides of, okay, hey, we sold this guy's player, but at least we're giving him something in return. It's the same way of like European soccer has, the transfer things or whatever.
And this becomes tricky for the other side if it is the other school, in this case Alabama, paying the buyouts, because you're paying essentially what his contract would have been here at South Carolina in addition to what you're going to pay him to come play for you. So it's almost like you're playing for an extra player that's not going to be on the field, and that's where this becomes messy for the other side if this kind of stuff continues.
Exactly. And I mean, there's the big – what's kind of all tricky about this is there's like so many different court cases going on right now that it feels like maybe at the end of this year, some sort of precedent is going to be set. I know Georgia's suing, like, it's either Missouri or Damon Wilson.
Yeah, it's Damon Wilson. I was going to ask you about that, about how
now going to Miami.
Going to Miami. Yeah, but go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, which is crazy because, I mean, they're suing. this thing is still in court over something that happened over a year ago. So this lawsuit has just been going. Well, they waited 10 months to file it, and then it's still going. And now Damon Wilson's on a different team, and you're just like looking around like who's even suing who anymore? And so there's that, and then the Darian Mensah situation is going to be very interesting to see of what the outcome of that is. And I feel like I've been reading some stuff of, hey, does that set some sort of precedent going forward? And perhaps it does, or perhaps, this kind of Wild West just keeps going and going.
Again, I'm fascinated by the story. Obviously, the fact that we get South Carolina involved in it, I think it makes it even better because we can track it a little more closely. I'm interested to see where the money comes from. If the player pays it back, if this gets worked out, like if Alabama is and you brought up something there, and we're about pretty much out of time. The time frame for this too. The time frame for this and how long it takes to get this settled.
Yeah, I mean, I would hope it's. I think South Carolina hopes it's quick. Maybe that's a couple weeks, maybe that's a month or whatever. But you look at the Damon Wilson thing. I mean, it took them 10 months before they sued, and so that says to me, hey, they were probably trying to get this money for 10 months, and then eventually we're like, okay, we got to take this. And so I think if you're South Carolina and Alabama, you probably don't want to do that because I bet the legal fees for whatever the Damon Wilson thing's probably closer to or above what the buyout might actually be. So, I think they think it's going to get settled quickly, and if it does, I think it's a win for South Carolina.
And let's just be clear about 20 seconds here. South Carolina's not sued him. They are just enforcing the contract. You've got the story on this. They are not suing him yet. They are just simply enforcing the contract that he signed.
Yes. Then they hope to not sue anyone.
Yeah.
That is the big thing of, hey, we're just going to enforce the contract and don't want a lawsuit.
I appreciate it. Jordan, great job. Enjoy a bourbon tonight. Enjoy one all the weekend. Hope you're safe from the weather and look forward to having you back.
Appreciate you guys. Have a great day.
Thanks, Jordan.
Jordan K. with the State. Again, that Yumi Zulu story, I really, really, really just changing the evolution of college football.
You're definitely fascinated by this.
I want to see how this plays out. We'll finish that conversation, and the Buffalo Bills are they're done. They're done. They're done. We'll come back and talk about it. Bill Gunner for Old Timey Meat Market. We've been talking about the grocery store and going there, and they're probably out of things. But you know what? That's not the case at Old Timey Meat Market. And as a matter of fact, if you got to go get food, if you're going to stock up, you may as well stock up on delicious steaks, on fantastic chicken, on phenomenal pork chops, and absolutely delicious seafood. And at Old Timey Meat Market, in their 3 locations, you're going to get that, including soup, by the way. I don't ever speak enough about the soup at Old Timey Meat Market. I'm a soup guy, but they have homemade soups that are absolutely must have. Go find out for yourself in one of their 3 locations: South Congaree, St. Andrews Road in Irmo, or the Lexington store. You'll probably see me at the Lexington store stocking up, probably on some shrimp. I'm also kind of feeling some scallops for the day. You know what? You get what I'm saying. Old Timey Meat Market has got you taken care of. And with Valentine's Day just around the corner, you might also be thinking about a brand new Traeger grill. Lexington is your Traeger headquarters. That's Old Timey Meat Market. Stop by in today and tell them Bill Gunner sent you. thank you again to Jordan Kay. Thank you again to Chris Deering. Thank you again to Brian Edwards. It's been a busy show today, and we will do it all again starting next week. Again, I'll be out on Monday, maybe Tuesday as well, and we'll roll through the week. But thank you to all of them for joining us today for a lot of different topics, from NFL discussion to high school to South Carolina football. And you're gonna kind of hear me pound it into the ground because, again, it's the evolution of college football. And it's like I said when we talked about the ratings for the national championship game. I think the product on the field is as much fun and as great as it's ever been.
I mean, I've probably enjoyed these last 2 college football seasons more than any in recent memory, and the parity and the excitement and never knowing what's going to happen on a given weekend goes into that. Yeah, once the games kick off and once we're playing games, then we're good. It's just the 8-9 months of the offseason where we have to talk about litigation. We have to talk about lawsuits, have to talk about realignment, all those kind of things. That's the not fun part of it. It gives us things to talk about, which I am thankful for, but it's not doing things to make the sport better more often than not. But again, it's just waiting until the next season kicks off.
Well, and like you sasaid, we're waiting, but and then the product on the field is great. The players are getting better. I think the coaching is actually getting better. And when we get everybody settled into their spots after transfer portals, I think, again, everything's working really well. It stinks that, basically you really have to go buy a new program now every year to that guy's with this guy. We'll have to figure the people that are doing the best right now, Phil Steele, Athlon, Lindy's. Sure. We all now have to go back to buying our.
Have to lean on those, right? And, for a program like this, like Carolina, that had a flat-out failure of a season last year, going out and getting a massive haul in the portal is going to instill optimism for the next 9 months. Hey, last year was bad, but, A, you went out there and made the coaching hires you did, but look at all this talent you brought in from these different places to fix this and fix that. And, again, we won't know until toe meets leather really 3 weeks into the season, because you'll be able to handle your first 2 opponents pretty easily there. Should be able to. But it's going to give you the reason for thinking things can be a lot better and turned around.
But I say all that because then we get into this scenario where, all right, the season's over, and to me, the storyline for South Carolina football, and again, let me be clear on this. I think this is a positive for South Carolina. This is South Carolina standing up for himself, and I love that. And that's another reason why I'm very interested to see where it goes. Bob weighs in on our text line and says apparently these contracts that the lawyers have written for players aren't worth a bleep. But you know what? You say that. How many of these players are using what we'll call professional attorneys or agents? I mean, I'm not trying to be mean to 18 to 23-year-olds, but a lot of these kids don't know about signing contracts.
No.
And no offense again to the parents, but a lot of these parents don't know about signing. You're blindly signing something that you maybe didn't read the fine print in, and good job by the universities, by the way, for doing that.
Yeah, and look, these universities are very smart. They have legal teams and all that kind of stuff. They're going to make sure these things are as ironclad as they can possibly be. And think about what happened with Nico Iamaleava, last year at Tennessee, where, he was seeking out a larger payday, what he thought he was worth, and obviously got him dismissed from the Tennessee team. But, the people working with him on that were his dad and a family friend that was his agent, quote unquote, but that guy's not Jimmy Sexton by any means. There are some bad actors that are not giving these players the best advice in a lot of these situations, that are putting them in bad spots where they're not getting what they think they deserve, or they're having to pay money back to schools because they're leaving them like this.
Well, like you said, I think it's, I don't know if you say bad actors, but it's like a parent or maybe
people that just don't know.
Well, I guess my point is that they're all they're seeing is the bottom line, which is, I get this amount of money. There's not hey, like an attorney, an unbiased attorney or an unbiased agent might look at it and go, hey, look, here's what you're signing. You see this clause right here that says if you leave?
Yeah.
So you're locking your in. And let me just say this also, and we'll move on to the Buffalo Bills, who, oh my goodness, Bills, what are you doing? Because I find it stupid, or I found it stupid, and now it actually has so much meaning behind it. I'm like, hey, I'm now going to pay attention to this. So what, a week ago, South Carolina started putting out, I think it was Gamecock Football on Twitter, X, started putting out the graphic of signed.
Yes.
And you go that's stupid. Why are you doing it for transfer portal kids? Not for your signees. I got signees. All of a sudden now, when I see them put up a graphic that says signed, I'm like, you locked them in.
You did, essentially. And going back to the thing about, Jaden Gibson, which we now know is about the details of what happened, with his situation there at Oklahoma. You have to come to the agreement, sign on the line before they'll put that out there. Because again, just because you commit somewhere, you can say, I'm going to come there, but if you don't sign, then you haven't locked into anything. And then, theoretically, you can go somewhere else if that's what you want to do. But until the Twitter account puts out the graphic of so-and-so has signed with the school, then they're locked in. But even then, again, as we're seeing, and not that Des, you had a signed graphic as he was just returning, but the Farrelly kid.
But he didn't sign. According to what I have read, now they're having a press conference up there this afternoon. They were introducing Chad Morris, and then Graham Neff and Davos Sweeney are going to have a press conference, and maybe we'll get more information. But according to what I read last night, he hadn't signed anything.
But he had started classes, though, right?
Well, I don't. Old Cardell Jones, a man of wise words. I didn't.
But it's like, to me,
I didn't come to school.
Would you be on campus if you hadn't signed something yet?
Yeah, you could.
I guess
you're not locked in. You're not under contract. You're not under contract. Yeah, and that's my point. That's why all of a sudden now. And let me take it a step further. What South Carolina did, they may have taken Jaden Gibson's commitment and then said, all right, we're going to vet you now more before we even allow you to sign, which makes, I think, South Carolina look even better in this situation. I think it's all very positive for Shane Beamer and for South Carolina, Jeremiah Donati. All of it is, I think, very positive, and we'll see where it goes with Yumi Zulu. But I do think it is something where what happened here, in my opinion, is the universities flipped the tables on the kids very quickly and went, all right, you want to play your game? We're going to put this in the contract because we know we can kind of get away with it. Like,
again, the players have had all the power up to this point, and the schools are sick of it. And again, it doesn't seem like you're going to sit down at a table and negotiate this thing. So, all right, we're going to lock you in to where if you do want to leave, you're going to have to pay us something.
Well, the text always and this is totally on the agents. The kids have representation negotiating for them. That representation has a requirement to explain what they have negotiated to the player. Well, but that you're also under assuming that the agent is
a real agent.
Is somebody who understands that, and then it's not like cousin Bob from three houses down.
And look, a lot of these guys, especially some of the high-profile guys, have legitimate sports agents that are negotiating these deals, but a lot of players don't. And again, if you're just looking at Desmond Umeozulu's situation, if you're the rotational defensive end, like, you may not have a legitimate sports agent that's looking over this and going over the details of the fine-tooth comb. It might just be somebody that that can read a contract pretty well.
One thing that hasn't changed, and I've talked with people about this, one thing that hasn't changed is agents seek out the kids who will be NFL players.
Yes.
Maybe not stars.
That is more beneficial for you in the long term.
They're still NFL, and they're locking on in it. Like, agents are still locking. They're still showing up at campus dorm rooms to Dylan Stewart and Lenora Sellers and no offense to Desmond Umeozulu, but he's a questionable. He's not having legitimate NFL agents banging down his door,
right? Unless
he had some kind of monster senior year. He's not a draftable prospect right now. He would latch on with somebody. Somebody will sign him for very cheap. But that, going to your point, not all these kids have professional representation to understand what they're signing.
Yeah, and a lot of them couldn't afford that representation if they had it.
Yeah. 803-404-6100. So we'll wrap that thought up. We'll come back. I'll get into this Buffalo Bills situation, and they are interviewing a new head coach, and it kind of comes across as a formality before they make the hire of said new head coach. I'll explain that and why, well, at least they're not bringing a retread in, I guess. That's good, but boy, are they blowing up the organization, in my opinion. We'll get Tyler's take on that as well. You're listening to the Halftime Show. Final segment of the show as we wrap it up here on a Friday and head into the week. I hope you're all safe. Whatever comes our way, comes our way. Last I checked, none of y'all are fully capable of stopping the weather. And so if we get an ice storm and the power goes out, just let's be prepared and roll with it. And if it doesn't, it sounds like a lot of you are going to have bread and milk for about 2 weeks. Just lots of bread, lots of milk, and everybody's heinies are going to be nice and clean because you've taken all the toilet paper. Kudos to you. So just prepared. Are you reading what I just told you in the break?
Yes, I have some YouTube videos I gotta go home and watch now.
I get to what I told Tyler in the break in a second because we've about wrapped up the sports discussion for the day. Thank you again to Jordan Kay for joining us. Thank you to Chris Deering for joining us. Thank you to Brian Edwards of Vegas Insider. We'll have a big week next week. Get ready for the end of the month and start getting ready for the Super Bowl as well. Speaking of which, not going to be seeing the Bills in the Super Bowl anytime soon. Look, I don't think they should have fired Sean McDermott. Okay, I didn't think that was a good move, but I also said I also am the person who on Saturday night said blow the whole thing up. Josh Allen can't get past. They can't get past the Broncos, and you get a year in which there's no Joe Burrow. I just have a hard time believing Joe Burrow and the Bengals aren't coming back at some point. I don't know what the Ravens are going to be. They hired Jesse Minter.
Yeah.
When I initially saw that yesterday, I was like, ooh, I don't know about that. But maybe they said he's creative. They like his football IQ.
He comes from the Harbaugh tree. He's been held in high regard.
I'm also a little biased because of our morning host, Preston Thorne, because, Preston Thorne, his final year, played for Rick Minter.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
The dad of Jesse Minter.
Yeah.
And if you ever, when you do a show again with Preston and you need like 15 minutes of filler,
ask about Jesse.
Ask about Rick.
Right. Okay.
Get Preston going on Rick Minter.
Okay.
The thoughts are not positive.
Okay.
If you want to get Preston Thorne a little fired up, a little rumbled up on a morning, just say, so I hear that Rick Minter is a master of defense, and your segment's good.
Okay.
Take care of it.
I will be sure
so
to do that.
I heard Preston would talk about Rick, and therefore it filtered down to the son, Jesse. And I'm like, this guy's probably not very good, but he's getting a job with the Ravens. But you get Lamar Jackson out, and obviously you got the Chiefs out. So it felt like this is the year the Bills can make their run. And you go down in Denver to, again, a Bo Nix team. At that point, Bo Nix is playing for the majority of the game, for the end of the game. And you go down to them, and it's just like, if you can't get it done now, win. I mean, and I'm not even talking about going to win a Super Bowl.
Right.
I'm talking about just getting there. And if you can't get it done, when are you going to get it done?
Yeah. I wouldn't have. I would have understood if they would have kept McDermott around, but I can also see the side of moving off from him. And their owner talked the other day about the emotions of the locker room and all that kind of stuff, which I don't think is the most justifiable reason for firing a coach. But they've done what they've done. Now they got to go back to the drawing board. And as we've talked about, Josh Allen, because he's not going anywhere, is the reason why that job's attractive. Right. If you had any other quarterback below that, maybe it's not an attractive job. But having Josh Allen to be your quarterback and hopefully figuring out how to put pieces around him can turn you into a contender pretty quickly, but you got to get the hire right.
Well, and that's the big thing. And so I think, while I love the fact that for those wondering, the Bills are going to interview Phillip Rivers.
Yes.
And it's just like you're in a position. You're still in a position, even though I'm being a little tongue-in-cheek saying blow it up and trade everybody. You're still in a position to be one of the top teams in the league to win a Super Bowl. And now you're going to hand the job to a dude who was a great quarterback and by all accounts is a football mind. But there's so many other things that go into running an organization and being a head coach.
And look, he's not the only one they're talking to. They are interviewing because he's already going to be the OC of the Chargers, but he's still taking interviews too. Mike McDaniel. There's other names out there, and we see weird names pop up from time to time. Do you remember when the Browns interviewed Condoleezza Rice for their head coaching job 7 years ago? Like, you see kind of obscure names pop up from time to time, and I kind of chalk this up to this. Do I think Phillip Rivers is going to be the head coach of the Bills? Absolutely not. I'd be very shocked if that would happen. But
I think it's going to happen.
Coaching cycles, these things do happen. You're like, that guy, it's like, okay, yeah, really good quarterback, and good high school coach, apparently. I don't know if that translates to the NFL, but